Thank you.
All right, welcome. Just a couple logistical things. There are restrooms, so just about everywhere in this building. So I'm going to kind of give you the highlight because this is where all the sessions are going to be. So starting over here, there's the A pod. If you go back behind the grand staircase, it's the B and the C pods. So we're going to have sessions back there, and then the D pod. So if you get lost, just come back to the center, and then you can kind of go from there. At each of those, there is restrooms, and I'll be around all night if you have any questions. So welcome to Cimarron. I have been here for the last 7 years here at Cimarron and have just really had the pleasure of working in a school. It's absolutely amazing and gratifying, and I get to learn a lot about kids. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. So I'm going to take you back. If you can remember when you were in middle school, it's quite the time, right? So I'm gonna talk through some different things just about student development, and then I'll go into some things that I talked with my counselors about. What I want to tell you is I'm not an expert at mental health, but I am an avid learner. I love students, and I dig deep into how students work, and so hopefully I can bring some experience when I talk about some of this stuff. So going through the ages 5 through 8, kind of that elementary age, you're going to see kids really curious. That's why kids get sick a lot, because they like to touch things and explore and play. They're interested in numbers and reading and writing. They get excited. They're more confident physically. They express feelings with words, so they get out of that crying stage. You get playing with other kids, and they're interested in adult activities. Next, ages 11 and 12. So this is like around 5th, 6th grade. Their maturing memories developing. They're starting to make decisions through making mistakes. This age is so fun to have in a middle school because they come up and they hug you. They're just so excited to be here and learn. Their attention span also starts to increase. Notice I have one page for 8th grade. Y'all remember 8th grade and how difficult it is? There is so much growth going on when students hit middle school, really 6th through 9th grade. 8th grade is a big one because emotionally they're going haywire. Their minds are going rapid. Surge for independence, rapid physical development, going through puberty. When you walk into a middle school like this one, you literally have 1,320 kids going through puberty in here. Awkward, right? Self-doubt or overconfident. These are the times where they're developing moral values. That's pretty important, right? When they start getting into middle school and 9th grade, they're developing. The part of the brain that's developing is their values and beliefs. That's pretty big. Peer pressure. Getting into high school, you notice a lot of changes going in from 15, that sophomore year. I had one dad tell me, it's just so weird. I turned around and my sophomore was yelling at me, and it was like he was a man. They have realistic contemplating their future. Skill development starts to accelerate and hone in on things. Social skills and relationships become more serious. And this is an important one because this is why we're here today. Peer pressure as it is at its max during this time period. So you can see some of the skill developments as they go through elementary, middle, and high school. I'm going to talk about 2 risk factors that I see. And some of these risk factors, if you haven't heard of Dr. Sachs, this book, The Collapse of Parenting, is an absolute phenomenal book. If you want to read this, it's a great resource as a parent and talks a lot about what our kids are going through. 2 things that he talks about in this book that I want to talk about. Video games. Video games mainly with boys. And I'll give you a couple stories. One of them is a couple years ago. I talked to a mom, and I actually first talked to the kid, and then I called the mom directly after. This kid played 40 hours of video games over the life of a weekend. Not only that, it was Call of Duty. And if you know anything about Call of Duty, that's rated V for violence. And the more I'm digging into kids, you have elementary age kids playing things like Call of Duty, mature, M for mature, V for violent. And not only are they playing more than they should, because they should be outside learning and growing with some of those developmental skills that they're missing out, they're playing for hours on end. That's a risk factor. Social media is the other one. And I'm going to talk about social media with boys and girls. Boys are impacted because they're now, so back when we were in school, like the popular kids, it was like the best trumpet player or the guy that can dunk the basketball, the athletics. Those were your popular kids. When you talk to some kids today, it's the kids that can get the most likes on Instagram or IG as they call it. If you call it Instagram, you're old now, apparently. So they tend to have riskier behavior just to get that like, or present disrespectful behavior just to get that like on Instagram. Girls, it's a little bit different. Girls are a little bit different. Girls are spending hours on social media looking at other people's pages. And if you know anything about girls, especially in middle school, high school, they're going to post all the great things about their life. The boys, they don't care what they post, right? They'll post a picture of their dog on there and won't care about it. But the girls post all the things that, I'm going to switch mics here real quick. All the things that are good. And so you have other girls flipping through all these things at home by themselves in their bedroom saying, oh, my life sucks. When that's not the case, right? So I was in this anxiety group, and we were having discussions, and this was right when the iPhone came out. And I started saying, well, you can actually track this stuff. So let's open up our phones, and you can go to usage, and you can see how many hours you've spent on social media. And the girl sitting right next to me peeks over and said, hey, 33 hours of social media in 6 days. That was just social media. Would that impact our kids? Yes, you betcha. And especially when parents, we need to monitor that. So those are the two risk factors that I just want to talk with you about today. When I sat down with my counselors, this is what they had to say. We have a rise in anxiety and self-harm. And not only a rise in the amount, but when kids cut back in the day, they would just make one cut. Now we're seeing scars up arms. So the level of self-harm is increasing. Suicide assessments have doubled. School refusal and attendance issues. Increased medication for students with depression. And this last one got me a little bit too. They said students feel sad and they think something's wrong with them. As adults, we know that's not true, because it's okay to feel sad. That doesn't mean we have an anxiety or depression. It just means you might be having a bad day. So, here's some research guidelines. And these are just ones that I found. There's multiple. Whoa. What just happened? Dr. Tucker, your clicker's messing with me. As parents, we need to make sure we're protecting our kids' sleep. The recommendation is 9 to 9.5 hours of sleep. Think about cell phones. This goes to my next point. When kids are on their cell phones at night, they're not going to bed. If you're not charging the cell phone in your room, I would challenge you to do that. That's my recommendation for all my parents. You'll be surprised on the text messages and phone calls that pop up at 1 o'clock in the morning, right? We have to make sure we're doing our due diligence to protect that. The bedroom is literally for sleeping. That's it. So we need to make sure that we have tech-free bedrooms. We need to monitor the video games. Recommendation is no more than 40 minutes a night. And you can't save all those minutes up for like Sunday, right? And just do it all day Sunday. That's literally 40 minutes a night. And making sure that they're appropriate. So if you're going to let your child play video games, the best video games are the ones that have rules, because it helps them abide by it. Cell phone, social media, making sure that you're monitoring it, you have tools to monitor it, and no more than 20 minutes a night, if you even allow it. My recommendation is please don't have that until you're in middle school. And then focus on family. And focus on family could be games. It could be eating dinner together at night. There's a lot of research behind that. Schools, making sure that we have good climate and culture, have strong mental health, good counseling departments, making sure that we're implementing a social emotional learning curriculum, and making sure that we're partnering with the community, which is why you are here tonight, right? And I'll leave you with the last couple quotes. As adults in a child's life, it is our responsibility to support them in a way that helps them grow. They model after us as parents. They do what we do. We need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. We need to make sure we're centered, because at the end of the day, our kids are going to do what we do. They model our expectations. That means when you go to a park, I want you to look up and see the amount of parents that are on cell phones, right? And then this Child Development Institute is a great resource. Kids need their parents more than ever. Research shows that in a positive family environment, including fun family activities, open parent communication, and encouragement to participate in positive extracurricular activities, students can and will be able to navigate. They can and will be able to navigate. And then there's this quote, and this is why we're here. I was able to see A.J. DeAndrea speak last weekend, and he said, in our society, there is so much talk up here, but what we need to do is start down here in the grassroots. We need to start with the family dinners. We need to start with the discussions within our house. We need to have the discussions within the community, and that's what we're here for tonight. So thank you for coming. I'll be around if you need anything, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Zimmerman. I really appreciate it. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker tonight, Dr. Sarah Davidon. She works with Mental Health Colorado, which is an organization that promotes mental health legislation and support throughout the state of Colorado. She has over 15 years experience researching these issues and working specifically with children. She's Harvard educated. She's pretty good at what she does, and she has generously donated her time tonight to come and talk to us. Carissa's right now putting up her PowerPoint and helping us. I just can't tell you how great this organization is enough. Their work in Colorado throughout the state has enabled significant legislation to be passed that's helping our students and adults dealing with mental health issues. And I have the distinct pleasure of introducing her tonight, Dr. Sarah Davidon.
So, hello. Thank you so much. I'm really glad to, I am losing my voice a little bit, so I apologize. But some of you may have heard that Andrew Romanoff was going to be here tonight, and I am not Andrew Romanoff. I just wanted to clarify that in case there were any questions, because he didn't go to Harvard. He went to Yale. So that's the difference. So I'm Sarah Davidon, and I really am actually honored to be here, even though Andrew has a wonderful story to tell and has been a great leader of Mental Health Colorado. As many of you may know, he stepped down last week to pursue other opportunities. So I am the research director, and I lead our child and adolescent initiatives at Mental Health Colorado, and I have really had the good fortune to take two of my passions, which are mental health and education, and to turn them into something that I can actually do as a profession. So I feel very fortunate. I'm doing that. I've been doing that for 2.5 years at Mental Health, or about 2 years at Mental Health Colorado. So what I want to start with, actually, is a lesson on how to work the remote. I can do it. So what I want to start with is, in addition to the sort of professional part of my life, I got my undergraduate degree in psychology, I got my master's in education, I got my doctorate in education. So the intersection of mental health, psychology, and education has been very important to me. So I have that sort of professional piece to why this is important to me and why this is my passion. I also have a personal side to this. And in fact, several personal reasons why this work motivates me and brings me passion. Two of them are my kids. I have 2 kids, one in elementary school, one in middle school. And the more I see them grow and watch their experiences that they have in their education, and how important social-emotional growth is to the way that they function, the way that they learn, and the way that they succeed, the more that inspires me, and that inspires my passion for the work that I'm doing. 3 other reasons why this is important to me. I promise I will bring this back up, but I do want to share with you that I've had 3 deaths by suicide in my immediate family. I have in my sort of near immediate family. So I have had a cousin who at the age of 26 died by suicide. My father-in-law died by suicide. And my uncle died by suicide. So for those reasons as well, my passion for looking at what we can do earlier on and what we can do to make a difference in the various systems that touch the lives of people before they get to that cracking point is so important to me. So that's my personal story. That's what sort of brings me in personally to add to sort of the professional reasons that I've pursued this as sort of my passion. So let me just kind of level the playing field a little bit, and you've probably talked about this and you've probably heard this, but when I talk about mental health, sometimes people go right to thinking about illness. And I want to really encourage us to think about mental health as wellness, the way that we think about us being physically healthy. We don't go automatically to thinking about sickness, but I think we do that with mental health. So mental health, as defined in childhood and adolescence, means being able to reach developmental and emotional milestones, to learn healthy social skills, to learn how to cope when there are problems, being able to bounce back in the face of adversity, and being able to show things like empathy and sympathy. So that's my definition of mental health, to have sort of those qualities. Now that's not to say that we don't have bad days and kids don't have bad days. But the difference, I would say, between mental health and not being mentally healthy, there's some significant things to think about, and I'm going to go into those. Mentally healthy children, and when I'm talking about children, I'm talking about from early childhood, through childhood, early elementary, into adolescence, into young adulthood. So mentally healthy children, adolescents, teenagers, young adults are more successful, as I think you all know, in school and in life. There's research that shows this. I think we know it. We know sort of just in our own experiences, in our own sort of anecdotal experiences, but research shows this as well. Success is directly related to children's social and emotional health. So good mental health is pretty critical to children's success in school and life. Research, I'm going to let you know that I'm referring to my notes because I'm doing this at the last minute because Andrew left. So y'all have to consider that when you're watching me like look down on here and what am I going to say? So as I mentioned, research is really showing more and more that students who receive sort of good social, emotional, and mental health supports, so not just intervention when there's a problem or a crisis, but really good sort of social, emotional supports from promotion, prevention, all the way through to intervention. They succeed more academically. School climate, classroom behavior, things like on-task learning, student sense of connectedness and well-being, those things all improve as well. So mental health isn't simply the absence of mental illness, and I'll describe that. Mental health really encompasses those things that I mentioned earlier. So the social, emotional, behavioral health, the ability to cope with life's challenges. Left unmet, mental health problems are linked to pretty costly consequences. So outcomes like academic and behavioral problems later in life, dropping out of school, delinquency. So I do want to talk about mental health disorders because they're real, and they're nothing to be afraid of, and they exist, and they're things that are going to happen just like physical things. My daughter, and one of the reasons why I'm breaking the rules, and I have my phone in front of me here, and I'm going to look at it every once in a while, is because my daughter has type 1 diabetes. And so with type 1 diabetes, it's really kind of interesting because she has, it's part of her life. Her pancreas doesn't work anymore, and until there's an artificial pancreas, which is still not there, that's part of her life. Just like there are going to be mental health disorders or mental illnesses that are sort of part of people's lives. And instead of thinking that we have to fix things, we can sort of embrace what we can do as community, as school, as parents, as teachers, as educators, as supporting community members to make sure that people are getting the treatment that they need. My daughter, and I also have a niece that I didn't mention, and my niece has, at this point, she's 11 years old, she has 3 pretty significant mental health diagnoses, and she was really having difficulties getting an individual, she's in California, but she was having difficulty getting an individualized education plan, and she's also gifted and talented, and so there was really this struggle with sort of balancing what to do about the mental health issues and sort of where the school role would be, and her academic success. So it was very challenging. My daughter, on the other hand, with her type 1 diabetes, the night after she had gone to the emergency department to make sure that she didn't have diabetic ketoacidosis, she was in school the next day with a team around her, everything put in place to make sure that she had the supports that she needed for her healthcare needs. And my niece didn't experience that. Like I said, she's in a different state, so I mean, I think in Colorado we're really doing a great job, particularly in your county, and in the school district here, and I want to highlight some of the things that I know are going on in my conversations I've had with some of the folks in the district who I think have really sort of helped move forward mental health and sort of the school role in mental health. So there are mental health disorders. I think we should acknowledge them and appreciate that there are things that we can do. There are things we can do to help mitigate some of the consequences of having mental health disorders, like not having health insurance can lead to poor outcomes. So connecting people with health insurance, connecting people with resources that they need. So often mental health issues go untreated, but they are treatable. They are treatable. I can't emphasize that enough. So mental health certainly is a critical issue. And as I think you probably talked about, I came in sort of in the middle of it, but it's also sort of connected to what happens with students in school. Mental health and achievement, social interaction, sort of all of that stuff is so interconnected. There's really no way to kind of extract them and kind of deal with them in sort of separately. Okay, we've got sort of this part and this part and this part. So issues like depression, anxiety, other mental health challenges that are difficult enough for us as adults. I don't know if I've experienced some of those. I don't know if others have experienced those as well, but they're difficult enough as an adult where we feel like pretty well resourced and maybe more grounded. But they're even more difficult for children, adolescents, teens who may not sort of be at the point where you sort of feel like you've got your established places to go. I know my health insurance provider, I know who my network is. So by providing preventative supports and intervening upstream, so earlier intervention has really made a difference. It's, we know, less costly, both financially and emotionally, than waiting until a crisis occurs, and it's very doable. It's very doable. So just a few pieces of data, and then I'll get to the more interesting stuff. But I don't know if people are aware sort of the prevalence of mental health issues, and these are sort of mental health issues that are severe enough to have a diagnosis. But about 1 in every 5 adolescents aged 13 to 18 actually experience a severe mental illness. Most of them experience their symptoms by the time they reach age 14. 3/4 of them experience their symptoms by the time they reach age 24. So early on, you can start sort of seeing some of these things that we need to pay attention to. However, unfortunately, it can be up to 10 years lag time before these young people receive treatment. So we need to make mental health, things like mental health screenings, universal. Integrate them into places where people are, so schools and primary health care. So it's really clear. I mean, we know that prevention and early intervention dramatically improve mental health. We know that. And schools are places where students should be able to learn and grow and thrive, yet this is often a challenge. So there's a general understanding that mental health issues and mental illness have their roots in childhood. And schools are places where students spend a lot of their time, but there's still stigma and lack of recognition around mental health needs, and that remains a barrier to people seeking help and treatment. Not just for children, for adolescents, for young adults, but also for parents, for sort of figuring out like what are the systems that I need to get connected to. So early identification and treatment work. I can't emphasize that enough. And there are so many both simple and somewhat more complex ways, but things that we can do every day to make sure that we're paying attention to some of those sort of activities that are preventative and promote mental wellness and mental health. So schools offer a great context for prevention, a great context for positive intervention, for regular communication between schools and families, and school health and student support services are critical components of a comprehensive approach to safe and to successful schools. But can one teacher or one school do this by him or herself or itself? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So it really does take a community. It doesn't take just a school or a school district. It takes a community. It takes an organized community and school partnership to maximize the limited resources and coordinate school district and county and state agencies to come together to have this collective impact. To have an impact that any one of those entities alone couldn't have had that big an impact unless everybody is working together collectively to do this. So Mental Health Colorado is working really hard to make schools a priority. We have a couple of pieces of legislation that I can touch on. And we've been working with school districts across the state, including Douglas County. My first introduction to Douglas County School District was our communications director in our office said, "You've got to see this." I was like, what are you talking about? I just started doing my school mental health work, and we just came out with our school mental health toolkit, which I'll show you a little bit about that. And they said, you've got to talk to the group of students who have formed a nonprofit, and you've got to sort of, go meet with them about the OASIS work that they're doing. And so I did, and that's when I first met your superintendent, and had probably one of the most powerful meetings with a school group that I have in the probably 60 districts that I've met with in the last year. One of the most powerful meetings. So, that's great. So school mental health services are pretty essential. So I want to go through 4 important things that schools can do, and many of them that you're already doing. And my goal is to also go through 10 takeaways that you can walk out of here with that schools and their school communities can do to work together to improve students' mental health, to improve the mental health of the adults that are working with the students in our schools. So that includes ancillary services as well, not just teachers and students and their mental health and mental wellness, but all of the other people who interact with our kids on a day-to-day basis. I remember my daughter telling me how important to her the bus driver is on the bus that she takes home. She said, boy, she has got a really tough job because we're awful on that bus. And I was like, we or they? She's like, they. So 4 things that I want to emphasize, and then I'll go into a little bit of detail about sort of how we can do those and what we can move forward with. So a comprehensive approach that includes key mental health components. So I think it's a little bit easier to kind of grab at things when they appear. So, oh, here's a really good curriculum, or here's something great that is being offered as a one-day training. But I'm really encouraging, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the ways that your school district has been able to do this, because as I said, it's pretty impressive. It really is impressive. So a comprehensive approach really makes a big difference than having sort of this piecemeal approach to how mental health functions in schools. So I would encourage a comprehensive approach that includes key mental health components. Promotion of emotional well-being and connectedness, identification of students who are at risk, and having timely resources and being prepared to respond. So to help with this, we developed, particularly that first one, a comprehensive approach. Mental Health Colorado developed a school mental health toolkit. Some of you may have seen this. And here's the website for it if you're interested in finding a little bit more about it. So while schools have many priorities in academics, research tells us that, as we know, academic success can't happen without good social, emotional, and mental health. So there are school-based mental health practices that evidence shows really work. So here in Douglas, in your school district, in the Douglas County School District, the folks that I met with, and I've had some conversations since then, are using the toolkit. So this toolkit is actually being used as sort of a validation framework in the district to show that the practices and strategies around supporting mental health in schools are best practice. So we really see this as an exciting partnership and a model for other districts to use. So what are these best practices? I want to just quickly go through these top 10 mental health best practices. And then a couple of takeaways that there are 3 things that I want to make sure that in my 2 minutes you all have. So I'm going to quickly go through the best practices, but these are in the School Mental Health Toolkit, so I would encourage you to go take a look at it, because this is the comprehensive framework. These are the things we know work. So here in Douglas County, as I go, I'm just going to put these up here, but as I put these up here, I want to go through some of the highlights that I know are happening here in the school district. So here in the school district, I know there's great work happening in implementing health, wellness, and prevention teams all the way up the spectrum of needs, from promotion, prevention, and through intervention. You've hired full-time mental health professionals in schools working together to meet the needs of students. Implemented universal social-emotional learning for all students. You've developed meaningful relationships with community mental health professionals. So if you look at best practice, the partnerships with mental health professionals, you guys have that. Implemented suicide prevention initiatives, such as Sources of Strength, and are working to reduce stigma, to normalize the conversation about mental health, and ensure that students are feeling supported and feeling heard. So these are the 10 best practices. Those are some examples of what I know, and there may be some things that I don't know of that also fit into some of these best practices. So the time to get involved, if you're not already involved, the time to sort of figure out how to continue to move forward on some of these best practices that might have some further opportunity is really now. We have new ideas in our administration at the executive level and the legislative branch. There are there's bills right now that can significantly impact how mental health is provided in schools. So 3 things that I want to end with. 1, you can join our statewide network of over 800 advocates called the Brainwave, and these are the first people to hear about what's happening at the Capitol related to school mental health. So we have 3 bills right now we're following. If you sign up for our Brainwave on the website, we can call on you if we need testimony or if there are stories that we want to draw from the community. And you could be really helpful with that. And that's the way that things change, is through stories. It's not just through data, it's really through the anecdotal pieces as well. The second is help your schools implement 10 best practices that I just went through that evidence shows works. There is a lot going on as I read through, and as I said, I don't think I even captured probably half of what's going on in the district. But there's still opportunities. So think about what opportunities are important to you that you can help move forward. And the third is supporting and strengthening the teachers, the staff, the school mental health professionals, and other families in the district to build the strongest community and the strongest school partnerships that you possibly can. If anybody is interested in the 3 pieces of legislation that I mentioned, I would be happy. I know I don't have time to go into specific legislation now, but that's not why I was here. I wanted to, really make sure that sort of the importance of the work that's already happening here in the district is highlighted and how it connects to the bigger picture work that we have going on in our state. So with your help, with the help of you as school, connected to schools, connected to your communities, we can change the narrative. We can change the narrative that we're hearing in the news. We can change what the media is covering so that we have positive stories. The media doesn't have to show the tragedy. The media can show us the highlights of the good work that's happening because we have good mental health and mental wellness in our schools.
Thank you so much, Dr. Davidon. We really appreciate you coming tonight and speaking. We'll get you back your key, I promise. So I have a mental health diagnosis. I have anxiety. I see a doctor and I see a counselor. I'm a law student, a mother of 6, chair of the DAC, a volunteer in the community. I'm working hard, and I have a mental health diagnosis. A lot of us here have a mental health diagnosis, and the sooner we can end the stigma of that, the sooner we can get people to help. In addition, I have a child with a very severe mental health diagnosis. He works very closely with our staff and teachers at each of his schools that he's been in, and I need you to know they support him amazingly. Because of the support he receives from his teachers and his staff, he's alive. And he attempted to end his life when he was 9. The work that our teachers do and that our staff does is important. The work that we do as parents is incredibly important. And the work that we do here tonight is amazing. So I consider anxiety sort of like the entry drug for mental health stigma. Everybody recognizes that they have stress and anxiety, so it's okay to admit that. And so I want you to know that we have some stress and anxiety sessions tonight that we're about to send you to. We have also pushed back our time a little bit because our speakers were so incredible tonight, we let them go. So our schedule, we're a little bit behind by about 10 minutes, which means you have about 5 minutes to get to your first session. Take that time to buy a t-shirt from Oasis, and we will see you. Remember, A-Pod is over here. And C-Pod is over here. If you're in the Commons, you're right where you need to be because this is the Commons. And we will see you all in 5 minutes. with the elementary focus, dealing with stress and anxiety. We have 3 speakers from the Douglas County School District tonight. Ann Fitch is an elementary counselor. Kimmy Romine is from Healthy Schools. And Lisa Cantor is from Health, Wellness, and Prevention. Thank you, guys. And please stay in the light.
That's what I hear. Yes, we're in the light. We're in the light. Hi, everyone. I'm Ann Fitch, and I'm an elementary counselor here in Douglas County. I work at Pine Lane Elementary, which is here in Parker. And I'm going to introduce these ladies as well. This is Lisa Cantor, and this is Kimmy Romine. Okay, I just got it. Okay, awesome. And so we as a team are going to kind of present our elementary focus here, but I just wanted to start us off because I think we are on this great trajectory as I was listening to our previous speakers about how exciting it is in Douglas County with mental health. You know, we recently passed our 5A and 5B, so it's really exciting that we're getting more mental health in our building. All of our elementary schools are going to get counselors. To think about that, we have 45. At the beginning of the year, my team of elementary counselors was 6. So it's super exciting. Our middle school and our high school, we're lowering our ratios. And so we'll be at 250 to 1 students versus students with counselors. And again, I think that's so great because we are recognizing how important it is to teach the heart as well as teach our minds. So if we're in a good space with our heart, we will be ready to learn and take on the world as well. Did you want anything to add to that, Lisa? Okay.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about elementary school stress and anxiety. So just a brief overview of the presentation tonight. We're just going to talk about some terminology. We'll breeze through that pretty quickly. We'll talk about how that presents in school-age children, both stress and anxiety. We'll talk about some strategies that we are doing in the district as well as things you can do at home. And then we'll give some resources for you. We'll end it with that. Just so you know, we have 2 handouts up here if you're interested for some community resources and mental health resources right here. So feel free to grab those on your way out. And then we have some toys that will show you what we use in the district.
So here's our little funny to lead us off for the night. So I'll let you guys take a quick peek at that. You know, I was just telling some of the ladies that I'm in Tahiti right now because I'm public speaking. So anxiety can look different in every student. You know, it can appear, you know, maybe this kid, we're looking at it and we're thinking, oh, he's distracted, he might have ADHD, but we just never know. So I think sometimes too, it's, you know, we have to really get to know and look at all factors. And again, we'll kind of get into that, like Lisa said, breeze through a little bit of, you know, the terminology and everything, and then kind of get into the meat of our presentation with what we do here at schools, how we can support you guys and how you guys can, you know, support these kids at home.
So stress and anxiety are often 2 terms that are interchangeable. But really there are some subtle differences and we wanted to go over that. Stress can be described as feeling overwhelmed or worried about something. But the thing about stress that's different than anxiety, and we'll go over that in more detail, is that stress is usually a response to a situation and it's temporary. So some stress is good, right? So if we look at this graph here, we'll see that if you have very little stress or motivation, you're probably not going to perform as well. If you have really high stress, you're also not going to perform as well because your brain is hijacked. You can't think, you can't perform. So our goal is to strive to keep our students in the middle, right? So motivated, a little bit of stress is a good thing in athletic performance, in academic performance, and so we want to keep our students in the middle.
I'm running with like 3 things in my hand. Sorry, you guys. So when we're talking about anxiety, you know, what are we looking at when we're talking about anxiety? And I think the big thing to note here is that it's characterized by feelings of tension, you know, worried thoughts. I see that a lot in our students, that worry piece, and physical changes. It's a sustained mental health disorder that can be triggered by stress, and it does not fade into the distance once the threat is mediated. So again, you know, this is something that is not a quick thing like stress kind of comes in and out of our bodies at times, but anxiety is something that lingers. Some of the types of anxiety disorders that we see here in schools are just some of the ones we have listed. So separation anxiety, social anxiety, selective mutism, generalized anxiety, OCD disorder, specific phobias and panic attacks. And even at the elementary level, these things are affecting our kids even at a young age. This will come out as well. Let's see. Clicker here. So, Lisa talked a little bit about stress. So stress and anxiety, what are we looking here at with the difference between the two? And so stress is a response to an external situation, where anxiety is a person's specific reaction to stress. It's internal. It's something that persists even after the stress is gone. So when we're looking at anxiety disorders and where they develop from, they can develop from many risk factors. It's not always just one thing, or it could be one thing that's at a different intensity level than another. So it comes from, all sorts of different areas we see anxiety. And there's not really one, set example of what anxiety is and where it comes from.
So in elementary school, we see a lot of things that play into what what can influence stress and anxiety. So one of the things we first like to think about is to rule out any of our basic needs. So things like unstable housing, not enough food, lack of sleep, and then undiagnosed physical conditions, such as simple things like is their vision okay? Do they have a hearing problem? Are there undiagnosed gastrointestinal problems, asthma, diabetes we heard about? All of these things factor into stress and anxiety in a student. Inconsistent life schedules, overscheduled events, trauma. We are now really starting to focus on how trauma affects academic performance and factors into stress and anxiety. Did a student experience an accident or injury, death of a loved one or a pet, divorce, separation, academic pressures we all know about. Of course, we talked about social media tonight, and then bullying, teasing, and LGBTQ issues all factor into this, plus the organic issues of chemical imbalances, genetics, all of that.
Okay, perfect. So some of the common signs of anxiety, and again, we're really trying to pare this down to our school focus as well. What are some of the things that we see in schools? So with younger children, we might see restlessness, inattention, not able to focus, disruptive behavior, tantrums, aggression, physical aggression with objects or peers. Older children not turning in homework, or, even a specific subject area that is an anxiety or stressor or something of that nature. Not participating in class, avoiding social events or group work, frequent trips to the health room, and physical complaints, absenteeism. I would even say those bottom three, where it's kind of listed out in older children, I see that a lot in our younger kids as well. Why are you down in the health room? We just saw you here a minute ago. What's going on? So really digging deeper too, when we're starting to notice that pattern of different things that are kind of popping up when we see these kids in, because we see them 5 days a week usually, and look at some of these patterns that we might recognize in the school setting.
I think it's important to remember too, the elementary school kids have a hard time expressing themselves, right? So what they, what appears to be defiant behavior really could be a stress response. And so knowing that kids want to be good inherently is an important thing for all of us to remember when we see these kinds of behaviors. Let's break it down. Let's start looking at what other things are contributing to this behavior. And so we're working really hard to educate all of our staff on that, and so that we can wrap our collective arms around these kiddos and get them what they need. So other factors that can affect this, lots of this has been talked about already, but about 25% of our kiddos do have a diagnosable mental health issue. And it's difficult to find statistics that are accurate for the younger ones because, as Dr. Davidon said, it takes a while to diagnose kiddos. So because they present as defiant or they're not coming to school. But we're getting better at that, and we're trying to educate ourselves as well as the community more on all of these issues. It's also important to remember that anxiety can have what we call in the healthcare world a comorbid condition. So oftentimes there is more than one thing going on with this child. They can be anxious, but they could also be depressed. They could also have ADHD or perhaps a learning disability. But together, between our staff, oops, there's a little stress. Everybody okay? Yeah. Between all of us, family, community, staff, we will work together to find what's going on with your child and how we can help them at home, at school, and in the community.
Alrighty, so here is really where we wanted to spend, the bulk of our presentation is talking about what does this look like in Douglas County schools. So to start us off, we really look at a continuum of support services in schools. So we partner with our nursing, we partner with our district resources, with our Team Up and our healthy schools. We partner with our parents and our teachers and our principals, all the way down to counselors, psychologists, our social workers. So it really is, it takes a village to raise these kids, and we're all in this village together. So what this looks like at, our schools, and again, each school in Douglas County is a little bit different, so it'll look a little bit different depending on what the needs are. Every school has an MTSS model, so a multi-tiered systems of support, and so that's where we catch kids that maybe need some targeted or intensive interventions, and that could look like a mental health intervention as well. It's not always an academic intervention that we see. Some other things that we have that we're really, really excited about, especially in the elementary level, is looking at the CASEL model. And CASEL actually stands for Collaboration for Academic, Social, Emotional Learning, so SEL learning, which is what we're really trying to get on board with all of our schools, all the way from elementary even up to high school. And so CASEL really is part of our district framework that provides us to look at what's going to best fit our school, because again, every school is going to be different. So how can we come into this school and have a social emotional curriculum that's going to work for what they need? Many of our schools are using Second Step, which is sometimes what we think of as a character ed development, but is also that social emotional learning component. We teach zones of regulation where we're recognizing those feelings. And I love, hearing Mr. Zimmerman talk about how important it is when they come to middle school that kids need to find a trusted adult that they can talk to, identify feelings. And so my biggest thing when I talk to groups about elementary and, counseling and mental health is my job is I want to make sure kids know it's okay to talk about those feelings. How can you identify those feelings, and who's your trusted adult to talk to them? I was a middle school counselor for 8 years before I jumped into the elementary world, and one of the things we saw as a group was the need for those coping strategies and finding a trusted adult. So now I think what's really exciting is our elementary folks are seeing, what's going on at the middle and the high school level that we need to identify and work on, and how all these things, again, in conjunction with several teams in Douglas County, are working on filling, those needs for our kids. So zones of regulation is one where we talk to the kids about their feelings, how to identify them, and what strategy can help you if you're mad or if you're sad or if you're, worried about something. What can you do to help you when you're in there? And then I'm going to have Kimmy kind of talk to us about the other two that are on our list.
I am not a fan of microphones, but I will, I guess, use it. So the Team Up program, that is part of our Health, Wellness, and Prevention department, and I know we have a few of our counselors for prevention in the audience here. And they actually go out into the elementary schools, and they work with the schools on some life skills program, and I think they are doing another session after this, so you can hear more about that. I'm going to talk about the Healthy Schools program, and maybe we can even go to the next slide. Yeah. So the Healthy Schools program, I am lucky enough to be to work in almost every school in the district. And it is an awesome job. And like Ann said, every school is different. And so every school has different needs. And so our job is we go in and we help them determine what do you want to work on. So we have about 23 schools working with school health improvement plans around social emotional learning. And a lot of mindfulness. We do a lot of mindfulness work with them. And then we have about 26 or so schools working on physical activity, school health improvement plans, both very important. So, like I said, some of the things we do, I was in a school today. This is a great story. I was in a school and they're working on social emotional, and it was a little elementary school. And it's my second visit, so I'd only been there one time. It was 3 weeks ago, and I left them some things to work on, some breathing exercises. We always start with the brain when we talk to even elementary school kids, because they get it. They want to know what's happening, and they do get it. So last time I was there, we talked about the brain, and we have our little model where we say this is our calm brain, this is our when we're flipping our lid, and they know the parts of the brain. So I was calling them back to the carpet. I'm like, okay, guys, let's get back to the carpet. And they were a little bit riled up because we had just finished a game, and this little guy in the corner, I hear him say, "Don't forget your prefrontal cortexes." So I'm like, that's right, what he said. Don't forget your prefrontal cortexes. He understands that that's the wise part of his brain, that's the calm part of his brain, and we need to have that part of the brain to come back to the carpet, to the next activity. So they do get it, and those are the kinds of things we work on. We really work, every school is kind of tailored, made, whatever they need. So some of the things, I'll address that in a minute, hang on. In that last slide you saw, oh yes, Lisa. Lisa's going to demo this. So this is the magical Hoberman ball. We use this almost with every one of our schools, whether they are preschool all the way up through high school, and they all love it. And this is a great visual to teach kids to breathe. And teaching kids to breathe, you think, why are you teaching kids to breathe? It is really important that they understand how that good deep breath, 3 good deep breaths, is really the path to starting that relaxation response. So this is something we use. So we breathe in and breathe out. It's as simple as that. Breathe in and breathe out. And so we often, schools, different classrooms have these, and they appoint a breathing person, and they lead the students through breath. So it's just part of their daily culture, the classrooms that we're in. They're just like, oh, this is what we do. We breathe before we take a test. We breathe right when we come back in for recess, because we know at recess, that's when things happen. And that's when they come in and we're like, ah, and then let's take a few deep breaths. And now we can get ready to go to our lesson. So calming jars are another thing we use in a lot of our classrooms. So I think I made over 1,000 of these last year. And Voss water bottles, I know, but they're my friend. And I think I'm all the way up to almost 600 or 700 this year alone. So these are really good tools for every age, whether you are 3 years old or 60. My boys have them in college. My husband has one on his desk. We all have them on our desks. It's a great tool to get someone to just sit still for a minute, because I time them for about a minute, and breathe. And so it's not a toy. You just simply sit, breathe, and watch the glitter fall. By the time the glitter is all the way down to the bottom, chances are your brain is already starting to relax, and all those crazy thoughts have started to relax. So these are tools we leave. We were going to give 2 away, but this is a lot bigger crowd than I thought. So let me ask you this. Who had a birthday in January? Come take one. It's your lucky day. Happy birthday. Enjoy your calming jar. It's really a great tool. So these are the kinds of things we do when we go into the different classrooms. We talk with the teacher, we talk with the school or whoever we're working with, and we try to figure out what do they need? What can we help you with? Can we help you with physical activity breaks, brain breaks? Can we help you with different strategies? We have a lending library, and we're happy to lend to parents as well with different activities that you can do both at home or in your classroom. We have a lot of different books. This is a great book for, it's by actually Goldie Hawn. It's a great book for parents and teachers to read. So I highly recommend 10 Mindful Minutes. So those are the kinds of things we do when we go into the classroom. Figure out what do they need, how can we help your classroom. Want to go to the next? Yeah, sorry. So just to go back to the slides, sorry, I kind of got off on an excited tangent about my Hoberman ball and my calming jars. Suggestions for home support. Model, model, model. It's so important. When I started studying mindfulness myself, and then I found myself, I had a senior in high school at the time, and I found, you know what, if I was stressed, then he was going to be stressed, and senior year is stressful enough as it is. I don't know if anybody has a senior in high school. You know what I'm talking about? And when they suddenly, they feed off of you. If you're like, knowing if your triggers are going off right and left, then he's going to be stressed as well. So understand your own triggers and model that nice, calm behavior, and it really does help with your own kids. Get moving and exercise. It's really important that we all get moving and exercise, whether we're in the classroom or we are at home. Brain breaks before they sit down and do their homework. Before they do their homework. Take a break, maybe half an hour. Give them a little break to stand up, do a few jumping jacks or some stretches or something. If they're working at home, make sure they're not just sitting there the whole time. And you model that yourself if you work from home. Make sure you have a standing desk, or make sure you take a little walk or things like that. Make sure you're modeling those kinds of really healthy behaviors. Be mindful of scheduling. I have the word block scheduling. That's just a method of scheduling. Kristen Race talks about it. Dr. Kristen Race. You can look it up. And it's basically you block off, okay, I'm going to work on this activity for 20 minutes, and then I'm going to take a break. It's just a little way of doing it. You can look it up. There's different apps you can use. Try and explore and find different ways you can kind of break up that day so it's not too stressful. I just need a sip of water. Carve out non-tech times. I think Mr. Zimmerman, did he speak about that? Yeah, I thought so. Really make sure you have those non-tech times spelled out. Non-tech, tech-free Tuesday. Maybe call that, maybe that's dinner, tech-free Tuesday. Or I think there's different ways of calling it. But make sure you really carve that out and be really clear that everyone's going to be off the phone. It's not just you guys, not just the kids. Everyone's going to be off the phone. One of our favorite stories, Lori and I, my partner in crime in the department, we were meeting at Starbucks, and we were having a meeting, and this little girl and her mom were walking in, and the little girl said, "Mom, you left your phone in the car." And the mom turned to the little girl and said, "Well, honey, no, I'm here with you. I don't need my phone." And we're like, "Parent of the year!" You know, we wanted to chase her down. We were so excited. Let's see. Name it to tame it. So this is one of our favorite things to say. And we teach this to kids. We teach this to kids. We were talking about it. Anne was talking about it. Lisa mentioned it about how kids and their feelings, and they don't understand, what's happening, or they can't explain they're just really mad, and they just can't, or they just act out. So we work with kids really young, and we really want them to understand what's happening in their body as it's happening and be able to try to describe it. Because when they can start naming it, they can start to tame it. So name it to tame it is something we use, and we encourage parents to use and encourage parents to model that as well. I'm feeling really mad, because you know how I know that? Because my heart hurts. And kids get that. So when I talk to kids and I'm like, "Oh, you're mad? How does that feel? Where do you feel it?" And they're like, they look at you like, "What?" Because that's not something people normally ask them. Where do you feel it? And the more they start thinking about it, the easier it is for them to understand it, and then the more they can practice explaining where it feels. Well, when I'm upset, when I'm nervous, my tummy feels like it's going to throw up. That's great if they can tell you that. So name entertainment is something that we use, and it's really important that you use that with your children, and you explain to them how you're feeling and where you feel that in your own body. Let's see. How's my time? Good. PBR, pause, breathe, respond. This is something we use with all ages. You pause, take a breath, and then you respond. Real simple. It's a great parenting thing, too, because if you've ever had a middle school kid tell you as you're driving them to school, oh, yeah, I have to have donuts for first period, PBR comes in really handy at that moment, because you could either lose it, what do you mean, blah, blah, or you can PBR and say, all right, let's solve this problem. We need to stop. You might get a tardy slip. So you need to choose donuts or tardy slip. And sharing with your children, again, modeling. Tell them you feel stressed about this. Oh, but we need to solve this. Let them know they're not alone. Everyone feels these things. Let's see, creative plan. Know that you have outside support. We're here for you. And reach out to your teachers, reach out to whomever you think. We have lots of resources. So if you're a teacher in the building and you're thinking, who are you? We didn't know you existed. That's totally fine. Come up and tell me, and we will say, let's work with you. We'd love to work with your classrooms.
Because you were segueing into
Oh my God. Okay. So and look, and here we go. Yes. So reaching out to our different departments. I'm going to turn my body here. Our department, which Lisa and Zach head up, Health, Wellness, and Prevention, which counseling, the nursing, the mental health, healthy schools prevention, and the homeless the homeless student liaison. We are all housed under there at Wilcox, but we are in the different buildings. You'll probably see us around all the time. We are here for your resources, community, your primary care, your therapist, psychiatrist. I don't know if anybody's been to the doctor lately. They start asking you different questions now. Anybody notice that? Or they start asking you how you're feeling, and if you're having different thoughts. They're very aware of what's going on. It's a great resource. And then we have a few, you can take a picture of that slide. Those are probably links, which will do you no good with a picture, but you could probably Google it. Oh, look at us, 7:20. All right, so then, and you guys want questions? Yay, we allowed 10 minutes for questions. We did great. All right, so questions.
Site-specific, do you guys have any questions for, about your school or programs? Yeah. Yeah.
That's definitely going to come to all the elementary schools.
Yep. I want to say, okay, so the question was, are the our elementary counselors coming to every school in Douglas County? They are, and we are even super fortunate to get some that have been hired on for this semester already. So, like I said earlier, our little group of 6, now we're at about 21. So it's even growing for this semester, but by next school year, we'll have counselors everywhere. And same at the middle and the high school, they're also getting their ratios down for next year. Any other questions about schools or resources? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you want to? I know our team.
Yeah. If the school requests us to do so, we will offer a parent class. I've done mindful parenting classes through a few of our elementary schools. I think we're doing some parenting classes. Not parenting classes, but we're doing some parenting sessions over at Mountain Ridge in 2 weeks, I think. as well. So, and that's not just our department, that's lots of different departments. So I know our department but again, we have to be asked. We can't just put it out there.
There are some parent university opportunities through Skyridge Medical Center as well. And so they advertise, and we have some of that information available. I believe it's 4 times a year that they do it on relevant topics, sleep hygiene, and they bring medical experts in and open that up to all of Douglas County, whoever wants to attend. So.
I would say too, with the Team Up department, and I think Jamie's going to come up and talk next. I know that they have, they also work with different parenting things, and then our C4Ps also. So we have counselors for prevention at every middle school here. That's a grant-funded program, and their main goal is working through prevention. And I know that a bunch of them, even in every single feeder, has done different parent academies. And so I know, like for our elementary school feeder for Chaparral, because we're a Chaparral feeder, Sierra, they'll get us information, and we'll get that out to our parent community too. So it's out there. We love them. We hope to do more of them. That kind of rhymed. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So part of our job is our department, we have a District Health Advisory Committee, and last year we rewrote the local wellness policy that is online, and nutrition is part of it. We are site by site, and so in terms of the snack and treats and things like that, again, it's whatever the site is, whatever the policy is at that site. However, some of our schools do actually create a school health improvement plan around nutrition because they might see an issue with too many unhealthy snacks or too many cupcakes, things like that. And so they create different programs around that. So really it depends on the site you're at, but we do have a local wellness policy, and you can look that up and you can check to see, make sure your school's in compliance, I guess. It's on the district website. So how do we reach out to healthy schools, or?
So on the district website, under Health, Wellness, and Prevention, all of the different teams are listed, and then kind of a synopsis of what it is they do. So
Every team does something different. So I've mentioned a lot of elementary programs, but we're in high schools as well and middle schools, so it really depends on what the school needs.
And I would say, I think this might kind of answer a little bit too. I mean, how does your school identify and maybe reach out to some of our departments? We also have, professional meetings, so counselors meet quarterly. I know our school psychs, I know nursing, social workers, and you guys come and talk to us about the services that they provide. So we know what resources are in, our team ups, in their realm. We know what's in healthy schools. So we can kind of have that as a bank of when we meet, they come and talk to us, or they share a little bit about their program. So we know, oh, okay, that's something that we see as an area of need of that for our school, and we'll reach out to the departments.
if you have individual SAC groups that you would like any one of us to come and speak with you, we're happy to do that as well. We're available to staff, to students, and to parents. So tell us what you're interested in, and we'd be more than excited to come talk to you.
We would love to come talk to SAC groups. Just invite us. Absolutely.
Okay. I just got the 2 minutes. Team Up is our Team Universal Prevention. And so the coordinator for that, Jamie Montoya DeSmit, is standing there in that purple shirt back there. And so a lot of the initiatives and the professional development come from Team Up, so that they're speaking in the next session. So, yep, so check that out.
In addition, some of our schools choose to focus on culture and climate that year. So we actually have about 4 or 5 schools that have written their school health improvement plan around kindness and kindness activities and things like that, or using random acts of kindness, the website or their curriculum. So it really is, it's school by school, but we do have a few that are focusing on that.
Yeah, I would say for my school, and I know we have I know there's a lot more of just than my school, but we work with Jamie's department and they provide a framework for us. So I am something called an APP in my building, so that's Allies in Promoting Prevention, and we have monthly things where we hit bullying, where we hit you know, healthy relationships, substance abuse, and age-appropriate levels, and we usually send that out to our parents and our communities in a monthly newsletter as well. But I know a lot of our schools are working with Team Up and their framework to provide that. I know you specifically kind of asked about bullying, but to provide that help and talk and language to our kids program. Okay. Was that it? We got to get off the stage. Okay. And we're around and we have resources up here if anybody has any other like individual questions. There we go. Glitter jar. Perfect. Thank you.
Juniors from Thunder Ridge High School. We have Rohan, Melanie, and Maya. Oh, I did it right. Yeah. Who are going to talk about Oasis, which you've heard all about tonight, and it is amazing. So I will give them the mic at this point, and then you're going to hear from James.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, hi everyone, my name is Mia Hayden.
Hi everyone, my name is Rohan Punch.
Hello, my name is Melanie Zoe, and
we are Oasis.
Yeah, that's from our Shark Tank pitch. So, So Oasis, we are a mental health nonprofit started in June of 2018. So we realized after a classmate suicide last year that there are some gaps within district resources for mental health and suicide prevention. Namely, there are resources out there, but students don't feel connected to what's offered. So we want to be able to bridge that divide and provide a way to destigmatize the mental health conversation. So we work in advocacy, which is the first step of prevention for mental health. And we do that through a sustainable business model where we sell merchandise and generate funding for essential mental health and build a physical oasis, oh, there you go, in public high schools in Douglas County. So really, each of us have our own experiences with mental health that has really driven our passion forward to starting this business, and it's the reason why we're standing in front of you today. So 20% of youth live with a diagnosed mental health condition, and only half of them receive adequate treatment. In a recent study from November 2018, the American Psychology Association, 75% of principals reported that they received inadequate mental health funding.
And in addition, one of the most prominent issues that Oasis does try to, talk about and acknowledge is the counselor to student ratio of 1 to 383, which a lot of us are familiar with. And we know that the bond and levy has passed in Douglas County, and that is helping reduce that. But Oasis does want to supplement those resources and help bring that down even more, working directly with the district.
These may seem like just statistics to all of you, but as students, this is our reality.
Right, so essentially when I think of mental health, I essentially think of it as an umbrella, and under that umbrella, mental health really stems in multiple different aspects. Now that can be something as simple as school stress, which I know I face, I know a lot of other people do as well, to anxiety, to something very severe as the thought of suicide. And Oasis Mental Health essentially encompasses that entire spectrum to really identify students that might have crisis that is very extreme and help, lower the risk of that through the efforts that we take in our organization.
For me, mental health kind of became a really obvious impact in my life last year. So as I mentioned before, we had a classmate pass away from suicide, and the anniversary of her suicide will be this Friday. And then a few months, or actually a few weeks after our classmate's suicide, we had our principal, Mr. Chris Tabling, pass away from cancer. So at the same time, you had students at school grief-stricken, and then a few weeks later, you had teachers who were our supports just a few days before crumble in front of us. And everyone in our community was affected by mental health. And at home, my mom was going through her journey with cancer, with breast cancer. And as a survivor of that, you see how mental health can affect every adult, every student, every person. And mental health doesn't discriminate. And it's something that really motivated us to talk about mental health and turn something that, shakes us up and makes us really passionate into something we can use to help other people.
So for me personally, last year I lost my friend Jen to suicide. And it's been a year and I still don't see my friends act the same, and our school culture has greatly shifted. And it's a tragedy that really hit home for me, and it really affected me and our school. And it's something that you'll never be the same after it happens, but we're trying to address and make it better going forward. So really, we have 3 solutions that we see as viable options to really make a change. And the first step is by creating a physical oasis space within schools. And this will be a space for students to get connected to counselors, as well as different resources, and act almost as a triage center for students that are in crisis, as well as presenting coping mechanisms, and as a way for students to really decompress from the stressors in everyday life at high school.
The second step of our solution is providing essential mental health funding. So we'll later go into this, but we have a 50-50 kind of sales revenue model. So 50% of a purchase you make goes directly toward district funding for essential mental health resources, revitalizing district resources that are there, bringing in new ones, and then building physical oasis spaces in high schools where students can go when they need help and to learn how to deal with mental health personally so it doesn't come into a crisis mode.
And in regard to the physical oasis, instead of just having a space there for students to approach easily without having to schedule an appointment with a counselor, for example, we want to have community counselors inside the physical oasis to allow students to develop a relationship with a counselor, because that is so important, and we don't see that in our school system today. And with that relationship, we want that tie to be built between the student and the counselor so they essentially know who to approach in a very safe and secure and trustworthy manner in a time of crisis.
So we've had the privilege to be really prevalent within our community, and we've gotten connected to a lot of people. And the first person that we actually reached out to is Mental Health Colorado, and we had the opportunity to meet with Ms. Davidon and really build a relationship with her, and we got to learn a lot about the school toolkit and really the framework and foundation that we needed to really create and start growing our company. We also had the opportunity to be featured in Highlands Ranch Herald as well as 9 News and CBS 4, and they really helped us broaden our reach into many different aspects of the community, and we're really grateful for that as well.
Oh, and in addition, excuse me, sorry. We were very fortunate to gain the support of Douglas County School District. This is essentially the place where Oasis began to cultivate and really come to life. Getting the support of Superintendent Dr. Tucker was amazing, as well as the Board of Education, a lot of other district members who might even be in the audience today. And without all of your support in the community and in the district, Oasis would not be in the position that it is today. And just to point out, there was a video that actually Chris made, Mr. Chris Shalene, a while back, and that really transformed what Oasis was. We really got, he gave us the opportunity to cultivate our message in a very meaningful manner. And that essentially spread out to a lot of local community members, and that's what aided to help pick up the pace of Oasis so we can make that impact in a very successful and streamlined manner.
So after building those essential relationships with people in our community, people who gave us the support we needed to transform this idea into a reality, we kind of were motivated to reach for the stars. So in June of 2018, we applied for a $10,000 social entrepreneurship grant, never thinking we'd ever be considered, but just putting our name in the candidate pool. By July, we got a call that we were one of 12 finalists for this prestigious grant. And in October, after pitching for 3 days straight, attending workshops with professional business people and social entrepreneurs, we are proud to announce that we won the $10,000 grant. Thank you, guys. So from there, using the money we have from the grant, we actually get mentorship from social entrepreneurs and building private partnerships so that our district can benefit from companies and business people who want to help, and really bridging that divide. So we rely on community support, we rely on corporate support, and we rely on student support. So we're trying to fill in that gap because mental health is an issue that affects everyone, and that therefore everyone can contribute and help.
To go into specifics, in a brief manner, in regards to our revenue model, it's very streamlined, and it's just like any other organization. Every organization needs funding to continue to excel, to progress, and Oasis Mental Health is unlike none other. So essentially, the sale of merchandise is our primary source of revenue as of right now, and with our t-shirts priced at $15, you directly support mental health. For every t-shirt you buy for $15, 50% of the revenue goes back to Oasis Mental Health for sustainability measures, while the other 50% goes back into helping students with their mental health in many different ways, whether we work with the district to support and create revitalized mental health resources, or through the form of the physical oasis to create that safe space and safe haven for students.
More about the mental health resources we'd like to see the 50% reinvested into is revitalizing current Douglas County resources. So we've been approached by a lot of people tonight about how we can improve the existing resources that already benefit so many people and make sure they're constantly updated to reflect what's students need and what students want. So we want to be able to do that with the fundraising, the money we've generated from our sales. We also want to provide physical oasis spaces in public high schools. So March 4th, we're opening our first one at Thunder Ridge High School, and the money we have generated is spent making a positive environment, so furnishings that kind of promote health and well-being, as well as providing stipends for teachers and community counselors who volunteer their time so generously within our physical oasis. And then finally, other improvements that we see along the way that students bring up to us.
So right now, the main way that we're making money is through the sales of our t-shirts, and that's what we're modeling in front of you today. We're not only business owners, we're models too. So we actually have a really special meaning behind the look of our shirt. On the pocket is a compass and a mountain range and a sunrise. So the compass kind of signifies no matter where you're going, you'll always find your way. And the mountain range is showing that through all the peaks, the challenges in life, no matter how hard their climb is, you'll always find that sunrise, that beautiful ending. And then on the back, we have a similar thing with the mountain range and the sunrise, as well as our business name of Oasis. And beneath that, we have the coordinates to our high school, Thunder Ridge High School, because that really is where we got our start and where we got our initial support. So these t-shirts are $15 each, and if you purchase one, you're directly impacting a student. Really, with every sale of our t-shirts, we are building to a better and brighter future for our students, and we are improving lives one t-shirt sale at a time.
So more about elements of our physical oasis.
So we were really privileged enough to actually send out a school-wide survey at Thunder Ridge High School to really get a better feel for what students want, because we do want to directly translate exactly what students' needs are. And so we've broken it down into 6 essential things that we really heard from students that they would like to see within a physical oasis. So the first one is they want it to be comfortable. And that might sound pretty generic, but being in a school, kids want a place that they can know is their own and is safe for them to go. And this is a designated space where kids can feel like they can go and just take a break from the stresses of high school, as well as therapy animals. And that's something that we'd like to get into a little later on after we're more established, but students really like to see that, and that's something that I know Mountain Vista High School has classes on, and we'd really like to introduce that to partner with the Oasis in schools.
Another important part of our physical oasis is something we like to call wellness workshops. So we understand there are a lot of professionals within a high school, counselors, psychologists, and teachers who have interest in mental health. So we want to invite them into the physical oasis space and teach students about how to regulate and deal with different types of behaviors in the classroom. And that way we can really bridge the divide between counselors and students, connect people, and as well when a student feels like they're in crisis, they have a support system at school. And then another part of it are coping outlets. So we've worked tirelessly with our school mental health department to figure out what type of behavior and what type of things students need to really just, self-regulate before they go back into class. And we have things such as painting, sand timers, and a little punching bag in case, you're a little angry.
Right, so the most important part of the physical oasis is we really want to promote and cultivate that positive environment. And as me and Melanie mentioned, the techniques that we want to implement in the physical oasis, such as these coping outlets and wellness workshops, will help promote that positive environment. We want students to learn how to promote and foster healthy mental health, not only during school and in school, but also outside of school, because often we don't understand the situation of many students outside of the school environment. And if they learn how to do that, and promote positive mental health outside of school, that'll really benefit them in the long run. In addition, we want to promote finding your own oasis. Obviously, everyone suffers from mental health in one way or another. It's high school. You deal with a variety of different things, and we want students to acknowledge that and feel pride in that. You're not the only one in that same situation. There's probably 50, 60, 1,000 other kids that might be in the same boat as you. And through our organization that is very student-led, for the students, by the students, we feel like once one student opens up the conversation through Oasis, whether that may be through the physical Oasis or even through our merchandise that really does promote unity, we will see that change, and we need to see that change.
All right, now more about the logistics. So a lot of people ask us, how is this going to work? What is the nitty-gritty? So to staff the Oasis, we do have office hours for community counselors. So these are volunteers who come from the Tri-County Health Department, from All Health. So people who volunteer their time to teach wellness workshops or come to the Oasis for a few hours every other day and are available to themselves for students to come in and talk to them. So we have office hours for community counselors, but we do really want to make sure that the physical oasis is staffed by a person every time, so that when a student really feels like they're in crisis, there's always someone there to be a support system for them or direct them to the counseling department in case there's something very severe. So we work with school counselors who have off periods, and we kind of try to make them, direct them to the physical oasis during that time, as well as peer counselors. So peer counselors are students who are trained in basic mental health triage and how to treat people when they first come in. So we want to have peer counselors come into the room to make sure there's always someone there. And sometimes students prefer talking to other students first, and that's something we really want to emphasize. And finally, it's been really important for us to build relationships with teachers. So getting this started at Thunderbridge High School involved countless meetings in front of the entire staff, kind of emphasizing the importance of the physical oasis and allowing your students time to come into the space if they feel like they're, acting out in class. And that goes into the logistics. So we give teachers a list of criterion to identify what students are exhibiting and whether or not they can be sent to the oasis. And there's always a check-in, check-out system that measures the time they are in the oasis. So a lot of concerns have been brought up about how long are they going to stay there? Are they staying there to avoid class? So the check-in, check-out system makes sure that students are in there for an appropriate amount of time, and with a professional always in there or an adult always in there, you'll have people checking in every 10, 15 minutes. Did this coping mechanism help for you? What else can we do to help you? And then direct them safely back to class. And then within the checkout system, there's a little survey at the end that says, did the coping mechanisms help? What else would you like to see in the oasis? And then we kind of cross-reference this data with the counseling department to see how the physical oasis has improved the system at our school.
So what are our next steps? What's the action plan for Oasis Mental Health? And essentially, how can we keep up with the pace that we are in our community and continue with the support that we're getting and really making that impact in the long run? So we're really excited to announce our opening of the Physical Oasis on March 4th, which is in the works right now, and we're getting ready for that launch too, which we're really excited about. Second thing is we want to continue to work and partner with all of you. We want to continue showing up at community events, and we love presenting in front of you all, communicating our vision and mission of the company, because it really does help us inspire conversation in many different ways and develop these partnerships, because mental health is an issue that does need to be addressed. We also, as a student-led organization, we also want to partner with other students, whether they may be students that are passionate about making a difference in the mental health community, or students that might even have their own businesses, apparel businesses, or businesses that are supporting a cause. So we can all collaborate and come together in unity to help students across the high school spectrum, even outside of the high school spectrum, outside of that demographic, to make this difference. And finally, we want to expand our product line. We have our original shirts right here, and we love these shirts, but we definitely want to have more of a variety to cater to a wider demographic. And we are set to launch new and different products that are trendy in our environment, potentially in the next 2 to 3 months, which we're really excited about. Also, getting that online presence with the website soon. So, yeah, we're excited.
So really, Oasis focuses on prevention, promotion, and advocacy. And we see that as the most crucial steps in really changing mental health and the conversation around mental health going forward and really bettering it. So we broke it down into 5 ways that we really aim to do this. The first way is by opening up the mental health conversation. And as broad as that might sound, that's where it's all going to begin. And that begins right in this room talking to you guys today. So really that goes from our merchandise to having a physical presence within schools. The second way we do it was with introducing students to tools and coping mechanisms. This can be taught within a classroom setting, but then they can bring it outside the classroom into their daily lives. And I think we can really see a change within students for that. And we also want to connect and familiarize students not only with their counselors, but with Douglas County's school district resources, because sometimes that's really what is the disconnect is something that's really what students feel, because they don't know where to access the resources, who to talk to. And with our physical oasis, that's something where we can really bridge that divide. The fourth way is by destigmatizing the mental health conversation, and that's specifically through our shirts and through our brands, because we're making merchandise that anyone and everyone can wear, no matter who you are, and you're all supporting a cause. And the fifth way is by giving students a support system that can be seen throughout our community. These shirts aren't just something that kids can throw on and yeah, I mean, it is something kids can just throw on and feel good about wearing, but also they can recognize students within their community and staff within their community that have a same goal for them. So it really brings that community together throughout Douglas County as a whole.
And finally, we would love to thank you all for your generous time and your support to mental health. And we would love to take any questions that any of you may have at this time. Thank you. Oh, yes. Yes.
What are your guys' plans, or is there a plan for, I don't know what you would call maybe charters or franchising into the other high schools? Like connecting, like say, you know, I'm a SAT chair at High School, and partnering or getting a group, taking your model and doing that same thing where now you've got, you know, each high school basically a franchise or a charter of what you're doing.
So that's a great question. So, oh yes, gotcha. So the question was, how are we going to spread this to other schools and franchise the model to other students at different high schools past Thunder Ridge, because there are only 3 of us. So our main goal is really to identify leaders in other high schools, people who are willing to be advocates for this cause. And a direct way we do that is we want to contact people through the student advisory group that the board puts on, the district puts on, as well as students who reach out to us from schools who have heard about our model. And right now we're focused on making Thunder Ridge kind of an example before, you know, when we launch our Oasis, and we want to make sure we have the data to support introducing that idea to other schools. At Thunder Ridge, it took us roughly 5 to 6 months to make sure the program works, and we want to make sure we have tangible results, and then we spread it to other students next year, hopefully. So we are looking to expand, and we'd love to talk to, you know, interested teachers, feeder areas, about how we can potentially model this in other schools and get that started by next school year.
So 2 questions. One, you guys talked about counselor to student ratio. Do you have an idea of what that number would be ideal from a student perspective? And then the second question is internships. I know a lot of psych programs at DU, at Metro, and what have you, have a lot of, have you guys thought about reaching out to, because I know you want to have that constant presence, to have a, you know, a psych intern to come in and help you guys?
So to answer your first question, ideally the national, like the Association of Psychologists recommends a 1 to 250 ratio for student counselors, so that would be most ideal for us. And really, I think there's a number out there, the ratio, but there's also a feeling for students. So for us, it's really promoting that feeling that they can have support. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a counselor. It can be a teacher, it can be another peer counselor or student. So we want to really promote that idea, that feeling that you're comfortable at school and that you feel like you have resources for someone you can talk to about mental health, not just academic counseling, but someone you can go to if you're really considering issues with, you know, your behavior and your mental health.
Exactly, because really in my perspective, it's really all about the relationship. And right now, in our environment, we don't really see that. There's kind of a rift in that. So through this and through our program, we plan to essentially take out that rift and establish that, you know, fill in that gap. But anyway, to answer your second question, oh, that's a great question. We've actually considered putting interns in our physical Oasis spaces so they gain this experience. That would be vital to their career, actually. And we think that having interns in there is a really great idea, too, just so we can have the physical Oasis open for a longer period of time, but also have it staffed throughout most of the day or most of the week, for example. So Tri-County Health was actually, we've reached out to us and we've partnered with them. And then district interns as well, we want to partner with and continue that network to bring those people in. Because we know that it's really hard to establish that community counselor in that room throughout the entire day, potentially even 5 days a week. So yes, that is something that we're looking into, and we do want to implement very, very soon once that physical Oasis does open and the company does expand.
When are you going to expand your gift giving to straight cash donations?
That's a great question.
Every nonprofit I belong to has that.
Yes. So Right now, we've been really trying to supplement the program of building the physical oasis. So based on our model at Thunderidge, the physical oasis itself, like furnishing it, costs around $1,500, whereas providing the stipends for counselors and teachers are the second priority. So once a school raises enough money to cover that cost, the remaining money that doesn't cover the physical oasis cost and the stipends goes directly to cash donations to the school and then to the district.
And eventually, once we do plan to expand into other high schools and eventually hopefully middle schools, we do plan to have an option where you can say that your t-shirt portion of your money will go directly towards that school. So like Melanie said, whatever remainder of that money that they decide not to put towards the building of the Oasis, they can take that back and put it into mental health resources specifically for that school.
Just one more quick thing to add in terms of gift giving and passing along the message through our organization. What we do, we actually support a lot of our activities in school. For example, Wish Week is actually, we have that assembly tomorrow, and we directly supported our Wish Week through donating a certain amount so we can have our logo on those shirts. So we're directly supporting mental health, and we want to have the prominence of our company and our brand on different organizations and on different events. So not only so we can promote our brand, but also demonstrate that we are an ethical company.
All right, we're going to hold questions right now because we have a second presenter that needs to come up as well. But they are going to be around for the next track. So if you have more questions, you can ask them, okay?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
So real quick, I'm going to just change over slide decks. It was on the desktop. Okay, here we go. So I'm really going to give you a quick overview of secondary mental health and really what we call suicide advocacy, prevention, and intervention. And students being involved in that conversation, especially at the secondary level, is incredibly important. And I am the prevention coordinator for Douglas County School District. And when we think about what Dr. Davidon was talking about in relation to what we call that care continuum, the early part of that care continuum, and this comes from the healthcare model, but also prevention work, is promotion. And so there's promoting the understanding and connectedness to what are the needs in the community, being connected to what the work is that needs to be done, but also the scope of the issue that we're dealing with. And then we get into prevention, treatment, and recovery. And this is based off of SAMHSA's prevention continuum of care, or the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. And one of the things that we're doing in Douglas County right now is taking existing models that are really effective, that research has shown are effective, and utilizing them within our schools and school district. So Sources of Strength is one of those programs. And Sources of Strength is a prevention program, an advocacy program, and it's on SAMHSA's National Registry of Evidence-Based Programs and Practices. And so when we think about how do we have wellness be a priority in a conversation, and when we think about mental health be a priority conversation within our district, this program partners up youth and adults to spread messages of hope, help, and strength. It's really about building connections between people within a community. It's also about having people focus on the strengths that allow them to get through those tricky and challenging times, with an emphasis on being able to connect people to help and really normalizing the fact that we all go through hard times. We just do. That's part of being a human being. Doesn't matter what age you're at. We actually have sources all around the district. We're a little short on time, so I'm going to skip videos for tonight, and I'm just going to talk about some of the other things that we have across this continuum. So our sources wheel is really it was based off of research as well as stories about things that helped people get through those tricky times, and there's 8 sections on the wheel. Family support, positive friends, mentors, healthy activities, generosity, spirituality, medical access, and mental health. Those are things that people identified that really supported them, and not just one, but like a web of things that would support people in getting through those tricky times. Another program that we teach at our middle school level is our Signs of Suicide program. It helps youth identify signs and symptoms of depression, suicide, and self-injury in themselves and peers. It supports students in practicing those help-seeking behavior and utilizing real-life scenarios so that they can really talk through those things with a teacher. Safe Talk is a training that we partner with the Douglas County Sheriff's Office to offer. The Douglas County Sheriff's Office has Safe Talk trainings that happen. We also have Safe Talk trainers within our district. For anyone 15 and older, they can engage in this conversation, and it's really about moving beyond the common tendencies to miss or dismiss or avoid suicide or talking about suicide, and applying some actual concrete steps of the tell, ask, listen, and keep safe protocol. Youth Mental Health First Aid is a program that's designed for anyone who works with young people ages 12 to 18. It covers typical adolescent development issues and potential mental health issues, but it also teaches the steps for helping someone get an individual connected up with mental health support. Assist is the training that all of our mental health providers in the district go through. It's a 2-day training. It's provided to our school counselors, school psychologists, and school social workers. It provides common language in how we deal with and intervene. It's a scientifically proven intervention model. It's about creating a safety plan, but also connection with additional supports, and really understanding the ways that personal societal attitudes affect views on suicide and interventions. So as I said, this is part of that whole continuum, from really that promotion and advocacy through prevention and treatment to support individuals in getting to recovery and getting the support that they need. So any questions in relation to just kind of that continuum or services that we provide in relation to mental health and suicide specifically? Yes? Great question. So how do we implement or go about like having these things happen or be in place? So one of the things that we've noticed in looking at data is that we've actually seen an increase in reports. Here's the thing though, when we look at what you would expect when you get rid of stigma, when all of a sudden help-seeking behavior becomes the norm, you'd actually expect to see an increase in the number of reports that come in so that the adults are actually able to provide support. And in looking at that, then you'd also hope that long-term, right, as the culture changes, you'd see a decrease in the number of hospitalizations. So, yeah. So, well, I think it's one of those things where when we look at this as a societal issue, right, we need to look at longitudinal data. So not just 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. When we think about sources of strength, we're reaching that critical point where we almost have 80% of our schools, middle schools and high schools, engaged in that program. And when you hit that 80% level, that's the level at which you're able to move the cultural conversation in a different direction, and then hopefully you'd start seeing those numbers shift. Okay? So, Yeah, it's too early to say, oh yeah, absolutely. So, and to say, oh well, last year it dropped or this year it increased, that's not, that's not an accurate way to look at that data and interpret it. So, other questions? I think we have to wrap up, actually. So, thank you for your time. If you have further questions or you'd like to catch up with me further, please do. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. These slides will be available on the DAC website. So that's DAC at, I think it's DCSD.edu, but we'll put that out there for you, along with the live stream. So Jamie, thank you so much. Can they ask you questions via email? All right, so the slideshow will be available online, also questions via email. You have about 4 minutes to transition to your next session. Session 3, we have career readiness in the APOD. Here in the Commons, we'll have, oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong page here. We do have career readiness in the APOD, but we have a mental health, safety, and security session in CPOD. And here we'll have a conversation about substance use, prevention, and response with Zach Hess. So you have about 4 minutes. Grab another cookie. They're almost gone. And we'll see you in a minute.
use prevention. I know it's hard to kind of talk about that when we're thinking of middle school and high school age kids, but we're going to talk about prevention because it is a reality no matter where we are in the country. So thank you guys so much for what you do.
All right, so thanks all for being here and staying late. This is great. Yeah, it is a tough subject. We also know our average first use is age 12. So if you're in here and you have a child that's in elementary school, this is a good place to hear some of this information we have, and Steve will even go into some of that. We're going to be talking about substance use prevention. This is us. My name is Zach Hess, and I am a Director of Health, Wellness, and Prevention with this Douglas County School District. The real goal here of this presentation is to really highlight how much of a collaboration this work is. Substance use prevention work for our youth is not just in our schools. We have an incredible partnership with our community, with the Douglas County Youth Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition, a long name, which has a lot of community partners, and Steve is going to talk more about that. That's really what we want to send the message out there is that we can't do it alone, and there's so many amazing people in our community and in the district that is doing this work for our youth.
Yeah, thank you, Zach. Zach mentioned my name is Steve Martinez, and I'm a Substance Abuse Prevention Coordinator with Tri-County Health Department. And Tri-County Health Department being your local public health agency that serves Adams, Arapahoe, and Douglas counties, and about 1.5 million residents in those three counties, and growing, might I add. Okay, so just a little bit on the DOCO Youth Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. This coalition was initially formed in March of 2016. Tri-County Health Department, we received funding from the Office of Behavioral Health to really work in Douglas County and to address youth substance use. As Zach mentioned, this is a community coalition, so when you think kind of community, right, all of the different sectors are represented. So law enforcement, fire, youth serving organizations, civic engagement organizations, so on and so forth. And we'll have a slide that kind of highlights some of those sectors that are represented. Really the model that we approach this work is kind of that shared risk and protective factors model, right? We understand that adolescents who are oftentimes using substances also perhaps have some mental health concerns as well, right? So really addressing those risk factors that are present in the community that drive teens to use substances or in turn, right, kind of create more mental health concerns. And kind of on the flip side of that coin is those protective factors, right? What are those protective factors that are present in a community that we can increase? One of those protective factors is being a trusted adult, right, which is huge, especially in a teen, adolescent, as they develop through life. Again, this is primary prevention of youth substance use as stated by our funder, and really kind of addressing that population 12 to 20 years of age. So a few of our goals here, and I know I apologize for this language. This is the language that was given to us by our funder, but it really is to see a reduction in current use, and when we say current use, it's past 30-day use for the following substance. So underage drinking, underage marijuana use, and prescription drug misuse and abuse. And we were able to advocate to also include tobacco underneath that kind of goal statements, right? Regardless of the substance, if we're addressing those risk factors, we're going to kind of cover the gambit of substance use, right? And so kind of that was the intention with, building out these goals to be more comprehensive. All right, so as I mentioned, these are kind of a community-based process, right? So these are those sectors that are represented within the coalition. We know that coalitions, partnerships are an evidence-based model to addressing issues in a community, right? A lot of really good, validated research out there that supports that these models do work when communities come together to address an issue, right? We've all heard the saying, it takes a village. Well, this is definitely it. So as you can see, kind of all the different sectors here, we do have representation from Douglas County Sheriff's Office, Parker Police Department, Castle Rock Police Department, and so on and so forth. Big partners in this work, of course, is Douglas County School District, right? We know that's where the kids are, the teens are, right? So big thanks to the school district for all the support and the work that they've done to get us to where we're at. How many of you familiar with Healthy Kids Colorado survey? No hands? No? All right, good. So Healthy Kids Colorado survey is a survey that's disseminated by the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. And it's a survey that measures youth risk behavior. This is a really neat process because it informs prevention staff, prevention teams, health departments, right, community organizations that have a stake in youth health and wellness, and kind of what's the driving issue, what's going on in a given school district, in a given community. So again, there's kind of a lot of data here in the next couple slides. I'll try and kind of talk slow within the time that we have, but more than happy to answer questions, and you guys will also get these slides as well. So we want to kind of start here with general protective factors, right? So as I mentioned, students who could ask parents, guardians for help with a personal problem. So Douglas County, prior to their participation in 2017, the last time the school district participated was in 2013. So we don't have 2015 data. For a little bit more information, this survey is disseminated every other odd year. So 2013, 2015, 2017, next one will be in 2019. But as you can see, compared to 2013, for teens who, you know, have an adult, trusted a guardian that they can go to for help, we saw an increase here from 77% to just over 84%. As we compare to the state as a whole, we are a tad bit higher there in comparison. Again, that is a protective factor that has shown to reduce the likelihood that teens will use substances and that teens will experience other types of mental health concerns. Parents would feel it's wrong, very wrong, if they drink alcohol regularly, right? In 2013 was close to 81%, 2017, 85%, right? A little higher than the state average there. So again, we call that a perception of harm, right? How do our adolescents, our teenagers perceive drinking, marijuana, vaping to be harmful to their bodies, right? That's perception of harm, and it's huge as far as the protective factor goes. Kind of jumping here into health risk factors or condition. This is BRFIS data. So that's the behavioral risk factor and surveillance system that's issued by the CDC for adult populations. And there is a sample size here for Douglas County, but this is kind of looking at parent-adult behaviors, right? So adults who binge drink, Douglas County in 2014, 2016, and compared to Colorado, right? So we saw an increase there from 14 and close to 15% to about 17.5%. And some of you might be asking, why do we have adult parent use data up here, right? We know as either a protective factor, on the flip side, a risk factor, that teens, adolescents, kids often model adult behaviors, right? So it's really important as parents to kind of be thinking about what our own habits look like in terms of substance use. All right, so kind of some more key findings continue here, and we really broke this down kind of substance specific, all right? So this is really kind of going into those risk factors, right? So under alcohol use, and I'll say this, alcohol is still the most commonly used substance among adolescents nationwide, in the state of Colorado, and in Douglas County, okay? So I know with the new vaping epidemic, the prescription opioids kind of coming to the forefront, we often forget about alcohol, right? But it's still commonly used for many reasons. The social norms around that, right? The access points, alcohol is most times easily attainable by adolescents. Kind of going into this MJ, marijuana use down here. Students who use marijuana one or more times in their lifetime, 27% in Douglas County, 2017, compared to the state average of 35.2%. So we are still, as a county, kind of below the state average there. A lot of things can be said about that. We know that our county commissioners, back when retail marijuana was legalized, there are no retail marijuana outlets in Douglas County, right? So that really limits access points as far as adolescents go. But we also know that county lines are imaginary drawings in the dirt, and it's not as hard just to go into Arapahoe County to purchase that stuff, right? Student vape use down here. We really want to highlight this because this is kind of currently what we're experiencing as the biggest issue in our schools, right? So students who have ever tried e-cigarettes, that's how the question was stated in 2013, ever use of electronic vapor products in 2017. So there's a bit of a difference in the way the question was asked there, which can contribute as to why there was such a huge increase. But if we're looking at Douglas County in 2013, 11.5%, up to 41% have ever tried a vape product in their life. That's huge. Kind of continue on down here. Students who feel it would be easy or very easy to get an electronic vapor product if they wanted, right? 65 and almost 0.5% say that'd be easily obtainable, right? Which is very close to alcohol. So look at the percentage here for alcohol. Students who would feel it easy, very easy to get alcohol if they wanted, about 59% compared to 65. So students, teens now are reporting that it's easier to get a vape product than it is to get, a beer or that kind of thing. So kind of something for us to keep our eye on. So kind of current vape trends continued here. I want to kind of draw your attention to this top bullet point, right? What we call perception of harm, right, is how harmful does an adolescent think using a substance is to their body, to their future goals, and that sort of thing, okay? So this is of high school students surveyed in Douglas County. So 85.5% think that smoking traditional cigarettes is harmful, right? The perception of harm is up there. We know all the work that has happened over the past decades, right, where tobacco control, and really all the great social norming that has been done. What we're seeing kind of from the public health perspective is all that social norming work coming undone, right? So the norm now is that vape products aren't as harmful, right? It's a great cessation device from traditional cigarettes, so on and so forth. So again, compared to vapor products, vape pens, e-cigarettes, only half of the students surveyed think it's harmful, right? That's a big issue right there, right? Also, of students who use vape products are also 4 times more likely to switch to traditional tobacco products, so smoking cigarettes, right? So again, another concerning area there. So kind of some graphs down here. So this is current electronic vapor products use among high school students. This is Douglas County 9th through 12th graders compared to Colorado 9th through 12th graders. As you can see, among juniors and seniors, the numbers are quite a bit higher than the state average in Douglas County, right? So again, pretty alarming. This graph right here is super interesting. So this is locations of sale for youth access as far as where are they getting their vape products from. The data does show in Douglas County that gas stations, convenience stores are the 2 primary areas of access. We call that retail access, right? That's a good question. Parents, older siblings, older friends, who are over the age of 18 that can legally purchase these products, sell them to somebody who's under the age of 18, that sort of thing. But again, kind of some information here to kind of help paint the picture as far as what this looks like. Some strategies that the coalition are currently implementing, right? Yeah.
Guys, I wanted to highlight a couple things around this data. If you guys look, the purpose of really doing this and showing this Healthy Kids Colorado survey data is to really show this connection between the protective factor of the adults. We saw the data, what our kids are thinking about the adults and their parents and positive adults. That's you guys. And so if our parents and our community is informed about this, they understand this data, then we can be talking about that with our kids. And that's a super important piece of this. The other thing that I really want to shout out for and continue to advocate for is the Healthy Kids Colorado survey. Okay, we didn't do it in 2015, and that's tough on us. That was tough on the community, all our partners, and the school district for gathering the needed data that we need for prevention work. When we know the data, man, look at what we have here to know where we need to target our efforts. And so, we're going to continue to advocate hard for 2019. It's a fight every time this comes up, and so hopefully you guys out there, we can advocate. It's an important survey for our kids to take. It's not a big impact on them, and it's a huge resource for us in prevention work and for all our, the county, the law enforcement, the hospitals, they were all writing letters to say, come on, you guys do this survey because it's super informative. Yeah, there's a question. Who makes that decision? It's a community decision. So I know that's what influences how whether we do that survey or not. And so it's just, you can see this, how important that data is. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you, Zach, for kind of tying that to the larger picture. Yeah, so kind of going back to the strategies that the coalition are currently implementing, is first one up here is retail access. So what the data is supporting is that adolescents are obtaining vape products from your retail locations, right? Gas stations, convenience stores, and so on and so forth. So some strategies, we call that a risk factor, by the way, right? So, some strategies that we're working to kind of address that are some retailer education, right? Working with the actual, owners of these establishments as to why you shouldn't be selling these products to folks under the age of 18. And I wish it was 21, but that's not the case, right? Parental awareness and involvement in the form of Speak Now Colorado. Are any of you familiar with Speak Now Colorado messaging? It's a campaign out of the Office of Behavioral Health that really encourages parents to have that conversation with their teenagers, right? Early and often. Talking points do start at 9 years of age, and we have a couple of slides that we'll get a little bit more into depth with that campaign specifically. But that piece really is social marketing and saturation of that campaign messaging. So in the coming months, I can tell you all, as adults of teenagers in the county, you will start seeing this messaging popping up on ads on your cell phone, right? Pandora, traditional print ads, radio ads, and so on and so forth. And again, it really is intended to get parents talking about this issue, right, as a protective factor. And Zach, I'll let you take the alternative suspensions here.
Yeah, so this is a really exciting effort that the coalition actually kind of organically we started talking about. I was always a member of the coalition, and we were talking about substance use prevention work and how do we help kids. And someone asked, you know, what do we do in schools, and how does that work in schools, like as far as consequences and all these kind of things. And you know, at the time, and it wasn't super consistent, and that's what we're really working for. One of the efforts that I believe wholeheartedly in is restorative practices and restorative justice. And we know, because of protective factors work that you saw up there, power of connection is huge. Keeping kids in school, connected to the positive adults in school, connected to the positive programming in school, the feeling of staying connected and not being shamed and those sorts of things are hugely important, especially when we're talking about co-occurring things, when we're talking about substance use and possible mental health issues. This is extremely important for the safety of our kids. And so that was something that the coalition was willing to take on to start to do some work in the district and partnering to look at the possibilities of doing some alternatives to suspensions and expulsions when we're talking about substance use. So we're currently doing work right now and exploring how to partner with schools, how to partner with our law enforcement to come up with different strategies. It's incredible. This is, it's really, it's exciting to hear the law enforcement partners come to us and say, hey, what we're doing with this isn't working. Is there something different we can do? And that's incredible. And that's the power of the coalition work. So we're working with our law enforcement partners, with Tri-County Health, with All Health in our other facilities and treatment centers to really kind of come up with a comprehensive plan for that. And so, you know, we're getting rolling in this, and nothing, you know, we're hopeful that we can get something going, but it's really exciting work for sure.
And I'll also give a plug for the coalition. So this is open to community members, moms, dads, grandparents, what have you, right? And we really encourage that because we want to make sure that your voices are heard and are part of the process as far as informing what we want this work to look like. You guys are the first line of defense, you know, so again, this coalition is open to you all. We do meet the second Wednesday of each month around the county, so I'll kind of give that plug. If you are interested in kind of learning more about that, I'm more than happy to share more information with you. Part of the adult coalition work is we also have a youth coalition in place as well. Those are the Douglas County Youth Leadership Board, Teens Standing for the Future. So we know that youth-led, adult-guided work is super important, right? So really working with our youth leadership board teams to get their voices heard and help us inform some of this prevention planning as it exists. That group has representatives from 5 different high schools, from Parker all the way through Highlands Ranch. So a really good cross-sectional representation of teenagers in Douglas County.
Okay, so that's some of the incredible partnership that we have going on with our community, and I wanted to just be able to talk about a few things that we're actually just doing, well, not just, but that we're doing specifically within the district to support our youth and this issue of substance use. Again, all of this that I'm going to be talking about, we partner regularly with the coalition and other partners in the coalition, and that's the real power of it, because we've made relationships with like All Health and Denver Springs and Sandstone Care, and our, you know, we've even gotten our sheriff's department and Castle Rock PD, Lone Tree PD, all these guys talking together and to do stuff. So, and working with us to help our students and get into our schools. So it's very exciting. You heard Jamie was up here, if you were in this session before, Jamie Montoya DeSmit was up here talking about our prevention team and Team Up, and he was the one talking about sources of strength and those kind of things. So that's some of the programming he does. He's the coordinator, and underneath him are 6 individuals in a team. It's a consultant model, so they really try to get out to schools and provide professional development, you know, information around different curriculums and resources, how to execute them, how to look at data, all these kind of things. These are their 5 big rocks. Suicide prevention, and you can all see it's a prevention focus, and that's what the team does. So we have different curriculums out there that they teach, and we get into classrooms. We help the teachers learn the curriculum. We help with funding for some of these curriculums for the schools to give to their students, and it's really to meet the needs of those students in that building. So it's a really incredible team of individuals. The Counselors for Prevention, you guys might have heard that if you have a middle schooler. With the School Health Professional Grant, this is marijuana money that the state got and funded certain districts. And the way that we got funded, we wrote the grant so that we could provide one extra counselor for each middle school. So this counselor in the middle school is a counselor for prevention. They don't have a caseload. They're not assigned to a specific team. They don't do class scheduling. They don't do any of that kind of stuff. What they do is prevention work, and they're working hard to get out in front of these things, and that's where they're concentrating. They're concentrating on substance use prevention, the prevention of mental illness, and then community resources. So if you were in the Parker area, you might have heard of the Healthy Teen Series. And that's all the Parker C4Ps that are doing that. That's this one here at Cimarron, Jessica Zimmerman, Tiffany Anderson at Sierra, and Emmy Mancuso at Sagewood Middle School, and they are partnering. As a matter of fact, right now they have one going on about vaping at Ponderosa High School, which we were over at observing, which was phenomenal. It's great event. But they're really getting out there. Our Highlands Ranch one has a huge one coming up February 26th, how to help your teens succeed. If you were in that area and want to go with that, they're partnering with Yes and with the Sheriff's Department and Tri-County Health, Denver Springs, All Health, and they're going to be putting on a really big thing. And we have that advertised throughout the district on different outlets in the district. The libraries are helping us. They're a huge partner in the coalition, and again, helping the school district promote things, so it's pretty incredible. Community events, here's some of the stuff going on. Like I said, the Healthy Teen Series, we have that Highlands Ranch Parent Night Education. And then just a plug for our huge partner that our youth education, Youth Education Safe Schools. Safe Schools. And that's with our Douglas County Sheriff's Department, our YES program, which is a great partner. And they've got these events. I don't have times on them because they're all different. There's some of them are in the morning, some are in the afternoon, some are the evening. But you can go to the Douglas County Sheriff's Office website, and they're going to be all in the Highlands Ranch substation. And they're going to be putting on incredible events there to support parents. And our C4Ps will be helping with that. Our prevention and culture team will be helping with them. So again, those partnerships, just trying to make sure I'm drawing that attention because we're doing a lot of work together. All right, here's some parent resources for you guys. And you can copy those down real quick, or we can put the slide up at the end. We are going to concentrate a little bit. We do want, if we have a little bit of time, just to step through the Speak Now Colorado. If you haven't been on Speak Now Colorado, it's an incredible resource for how to talk to your kid. It starts at age 9. How to have a conversation, how to start the conversation around substances. How do we start getting rid of that stigma? It is not one of the key things, and I know Steve will highlight it, I'm going to let him talk more about this, but it is not how to discipline your kid if you've caught them with a vape device in their room. That's not what it's about. It is a prevention tool to just start that conversation. It's out there, guys. It's all over the media. It's everywhere. Kids are starting to have questions. We saw the data that our kids in Douglas County really value that adult connection to those positive adults, their parents, and other positive adults in their life. And so we're a huge resource for stopping this and being very ahead of this substance use stuff. So all of those are really good. The last one down there, DougCoPrevention.org, that's actually the coalition's website, which has the links to all of this. So that's a great resource also. It has a lot of good stuff. It has our link to our youth page. We actually have a Spanish version of that. Yeah, let's see where we at, and then you can talk. Okay. I'll talk just real quick here. I'm going to actually click on this. Hopefully it works. Maybe not. No. I wanted to get, oh, there we go. Just so you guys can see what this looks like. So as you go to this, you can see talk with your kids there, and you can see the different ages. And it just has, how do you, like for 9 to 13, how do you start the conversation? It gives you some, it just gives you some pointers. If you click on it, how to listen, be clear, establish clear rules. It just gives you some really good ideas, because this is hard. It's hard to talk about, and it's hard not to get super emotional about it. I'm in this field, and my kids will say something, and I'm like, "Grah!" you can't ever do that, you'll die, you know. And that's not in there. You're not supposed to say that. It won't work. Don't do that. But that's why this is a really good resource to kind of keep you calm, give you some ideas, and you can navigate that. And I'll let Steve talk a little bit more about Speak Now.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, this is a campaign that we highly promote in the county, both through our social marketing strategy and also just word of mouth, of course, and really encouraging partners to also utilize this messaging. I mean, it has been highly researched as far as how the talking points have been created. Again, it is age specific, 9 to 13, 14 to 17, and 18 to 20. And yes, believe it or not, 18 to 20-year-olds also still need to have the conversation, as difficult as that is. But, you know, again, it's a really helpful online tool, and my favorite part about this is there are some role-playing activities, right? For those of you that are parents, we know how difficult and challenging it is to have that conversation, right? Eyes rolling, you know, not paying attention. There's some actually really helpful tips like start the conversation when you're riding in the car to school where they can't escape, right? So like that's some really useful information that I know a lot of parents have been excited about. So also just kind of keep in mind that there is a train-the-trainer model for delivering this Speak Now messaging. I know Zach's team are going to be trained on that, I believe, this coming Friday. So moving forward, you know, work with Zach's team, the school district, to be able to create some opportunities for you all to engage more in that content in the form of a training, right? So that's some really exciting news that's kind of coming down the pipeline there. And the last thing I'll say about this campaign is that it is intended to be user-friendly, right? We know that rules in the home they vary from household to household, right? And so this was created with that understanding in mind, right? That there are going to be some different norms, there are going to be some different values and expectations from house to house, but we do know the importance of having that conversation as a protective factor. And we know that parents who talk with their teens are, I think it's like 6 times less likely to ever try a substance, right? And that plays into the perception of harm, how they perceive substances to be harmful to themselves, right? That plays into goal setting. That also plays into expectations of the parents, right? The trusted adults in their lives.
So we have a couple minutes for questions. The one thing I do want to say that we didn't say is we have some of the exciting news coming up with the work of the coalition and the partnership between the school district and the coalition is when this funding ends, right? The goal that the funder said was that the coalition had to hand over kind of the operations of the coalition to a community partner, and so the Douglas County School District stepped up for that. So we will actually be taking the reins of the Douglas County Youth Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. It'll still be a community coalition, but we're gonna have that FTE through grant funds, and we're gonna have them in the school district. And we're super excited. Our youth board is just taking off like crazy. And we have an amazing group of young adults in that group doing some work. So that's another real exciting thing that. We just know that we're going to be able to take it to the next level in the next 5 years of funding that we get and some of the ideas and strategies that we have and the partnerships that are growing. It's incredible. All right, so any questions? Yes. The Healthy Kids Colorado surveys? Yes, they take it in school, in the middle schools and the high schools it's available to. Yeah, I think the community backing it and being supportive of that to the school board, to the school district is the important piece. And just correct, 2019 is the next one. And Lisa, when does that happen? I'm going to put Lisa on the spot because that's usually her team that starts managing that. The fall. Before Thanksgiving break. Yes, schools are randomly selected. They can. Every school can opt in. If as a school district we say yes, this is something we want to do, and then every school has an option They can say, yes, we want to do it, or we don't. And a lot of that has to do with the community. A lot of it has to do with that community in that high school, whether they support the survey. We get it. I mean, there's a lot of surveys going out. We understand where some of this angst about surveys comes from. It's just we, on this side of the house, really want to advocate for it because we just use it so much. We've used this data. I mean, Tri-County has made these incredible reports that have gone out to the community, and we look at this, and for grant funding, especially in this work for mental health and substance use, when you have that data from the Healthy Kids Colorado survey, it's huge. It looks great when we're writing our grant proposals that we have this data. So, yeah. Any other questions? Talk to your kids. Let us know how we can help.
I'd like to take a moment to thank Tommy Rice. Tommy, thank you for providing security to our group tonight. We appreciate you. All right, folks are starting to trickle in from the other session, and I'm going to turn it over to Melody for a quick sec.
I'd like to take a few minutes to thank some of the people that helped put this on. Events like this don't happen overnight. They take a whole crew of people. You've seen some of our DAC members up here introducing people. Without the DAC, this wouldn't happen. So thank you to my DAC members for supporting me and supporting this forum, especially to Laura Welch, who put countless hours of time into getting this event prepared, along with Sandy Marish, who's standing in the back waving. She worked really hard to get this together, so thank you to them. Thank you also to all of our speakers tonight for taking time out. Thank you to you for coming. I'd like to spend a little bit of time with a special shout out. Tri-County Health Department came tonight to offer some information to us. We really appreciate our out-of-district partners coming in, along with the Parker Area Chamber of Commerce Foundation who came tonight, and of course Mental Health Colorado. We really appreciate the relationships that the Douglas County staff builds with our community partners outside of the schools. And without them, events like this wouldn't happen. So I just wanted to say thank you again. Also to the Cimarron staff for helping us with this. And when this event is over, if you could help us fold up chairs, we would really appreciate that.
All right. I'm going to introduce Dr. Thomas Tucker, a son of Arkansas, found his way somehow to the great state of Ohio. Dr. Tucker, on your bio, you're not supposed to include your time from kindergarten through 12th grade when you say 29 years in the public school. That's just, you're too young to be that old. I'm sorry. Well preserved. He comes to us from Cincinnati, Ohio, where he served as superintendent of Princeton City Schools. During his career, he's held positions as classroom teachers, assistant principals, directors of secondary curriculum, and superintendent. He's been twice named National Superintendent of the Year and National Alliance of Black School Educators in 2013. Dr. Tucker is a very passionate man, and he's going to give us our closing comments tonight. Thank you, Dr. Tucker.
Thank you, Andy. And thank you all for clapping. I mean, I really appreciate that. And thank you for being awake, too. I had some bets with a couple folks back there. I said, folks are going to be asleep by this time, but thank you. Thank you for your commitment and your passion to education. Real quickly, I have some good news and some bad news. Good news first or bad news? Okay. Bad news is that Andy and Melody gave me 20 minutes to close. 20 minutes. You want to hear the good news? Yeah, I have 20 minutes. I actually have an hour. No, I'm only going to use 19 minutes. Okay? No, I promise you I'll be done in 5 minutes. And Sarah, much to your chagrin, I won't use the entire time, okay? Sarah said, Thomas, you go beyond that 2.5 minutes that you had promised the group. So we're going to blame Sarah for me speaking more than 2.5 minutes, okay? All right, so one, again, thank you all for coming out tonight and your great passion that you have for the Douglas County School District and, more importantly, for our 68,000 students. As many of you know, these are the 5 board end goals that were adopted over the course of the last 12 months. These end goals here are going to be the goals that will anchor our strategic plan. Our strategic plan is a plan that will help direct our resources, our people resources, and our financial resources for the next 3 to 5 years. We've already selected a consultant, and we plan to have the findings presented to the community around June, end of June or the end of July. So you're going to have these. You're going to have a robust plan in place in the next few months. And when you are called upon, community members, please step up. Please step up, and we want your input. We want input from our staff, from our teachers, support staff, administrators, our parents, our community, especially our students, and we want input from our business community as well. So quickly going through these board end goals, and you can go to the, if you don't have anything else to do tonight after I finish in 5 minutes, you can go and get a full understanding of each of these 5 end goals. Academic excellence, that's what we should be about. We should be about preparing our students for the current, for what's happening right now, and for the future, for what's happening here in the present and in the future. You see a couple of them you see sub-end by some of these end goals. The sub-ends are the 3 goals that the board has said, Thomas, and your cabinet and other folks here, these are the goals that we're really going to emphasize. Doesn't mean the other ones aren't important. They're very important, but where you see sub-ends, those are the ones that we're going to emphasize for the rest of the school year. Outstanding educators and staff. It begins and ends, folks. After our parents, guardians, you got to have outstanding staff. You have to have outstanding teachers, because our folks who are on the ground each and every day with our students have the biggest impact, the biggest influence on our students. So let's continue to recruit and retain the absolute most effective teachers and support staff and administrators for our students. Safe, positive climate and culture. That's what this has been about tonight, right? If we were to sum things up, everything up tonight, it's about providing a safe, positive climate and culture for our students built on great relationships, right? Collaborative parent, family, and community relations. Someone talked earlier about the village, needing the entire village to raise our children here in the district. Folks, we finally realized about 15, 20 years ago that we as educators can't do it all. And then last but not least, financial well-being. And folks, I want you to give yourselves a round of applause for supporting 5A and 5B, because, yes. Because I tell you what, we're talking about capturing the heart of our children and ensuring that each student has at least one adult in which our 68,000 students could turn to. Folks, we couldn't do it without the support of 5A and 5B. So again, thank you. Let's capture what we talked about tonight as it relates to social and emotional learning. Positive learning environments lead to healthy and happy students who do well. Let's capture the heart first. We're not going to capture the mind if we don't capture the heart, if we don't build those relationships that we talked about tonight. Our school district works to meet the unique needs of all students. It really should be each student with a multi-tiered system of supports. When you hear MTSS, multi-tiered system of support, that's a framework that is data-informed, prevention-based, and focused on the whole child. So if we were to draw a connection about what we've heard tonight, we're talking about a holistic approach to meeting each student. The Douglas County School District provides a balanced continuum of support, prevention through intervention, universal through intensive. Again, with our MLO, we're able to hire 80 new school counselors, and we're going to meet our young people early on. We're not going to wait until they're juniors and seniors. We're going to meet those young people early on. So 80 new school counselors will be joining our ranks, and we're working hard through our HR department to recruit the best and brightest new school counselors. So thank you again, community members. Most importantly, we're in this together. We talked about the village. We have to invite you as members of the village to help raise our children. Our school-based efforts in mental health are designed to keep everyone safe and restore students to healthy functioning. Very important. And our goal with all student interventions is to get students back in the classroom, ready to learn and access the curriculum to be successful learners and citizens, not only here in Douglas County, but here in America. Positive learning environments lead to healthy and happy students who do well, and we love healthy, happy students. Correct, staff? So what's next in the Douglas County School District? We've created a physical oversight committee for the MLO and bond. As you've driven around, you've probably seen some signs going up and say, hey, your tax dollars is at work. One of the mantras of our Board of Education, promises made, promises kept. So you're going to see those signs populate throughout the district. strategic planning, and I talked a little bit about that. That's going to be one of the most influential guiding forces for this district over the next 3 to 5 years, because it's going to come from the ground up. Your superintendent is not going to say, this is what you need, and this is how we're going to do it. We need your input, members of the village, in terms of where we should go for the next 3 to 5 years. Systemic curriculum alignment, we do pretty darn good. Parents send the best kids to school. Is that correct, parents? You don't keep your best kids at home, do you? Send them to school, don't you? So we do pretty good. But once we align the written curriculum, the state curriculum, with the taught curriculum, the curriculum that our teachers are teaching each and every day, and by the way, we're not going to say what page you should be on in what book. We're not saying that. And we align, again, the written curriculum with the taught curriculum, what our teachers are teaching in the classroom, with the assessed curriculum. There will not be a district around that will touch the Douglas County School District. So far, again, we're doing pretty good, but let's ensure that our curriculum is systemically aligned. We talked about that tonight in our CTE programs, providing opportunities for all of our students. That's our moral obligation, right, folks? Shouldn't matter where you go to school here in this district. You should have the same opportunities to be successful. Okay, launching of the Innovation Campus in partnership with ACC, Colorado State University, and the Castle Rock Economic Development Council. And right now we have about 5 tracks in place. Those of you who were in those sessions earlier, you heard about some of those tracks. We also currently offer about 34 different pathways to certificates, industry certificates, to students earning concurrent enrollment, and this is happening throughout our district. I don't know if, is Danny Windsor still here? Okay, Danny, where's Joyce? Joyce, she probably took off, right? But she did a great job. She and Danny, and I want to give you all a round of applause for doing a great job. Yes. And getting those, we have a business track, cybersecurity, health science. Our CNA program is taking off. We're excited about the work that's going to take place, for example, at Rock High School. We're just ecstatic. Again, you all have made that possible. You allowing us to create additional pathways for our students. Then also the Parker Success Center. And I want to thank Dennis Houston. Where's Dennis? He's around here somewhere. Dennis, I want to give you a round of applause for the work that you're really leading with the upcoming Parker Success Center. So thank you. Let's give Dennis a round of applause. Now, Dennis, if I say too much, I want you to stop me, okay? So this is a southeast aerial to the north of the Collaboration Campus. Beautiful campus. It's about 50% done, when you say, Danny? 55%, 50, 55, you know, what's the difference? But, you know, 55% done. It's going to be a great collaboration, again, between Arapahoe Community College, CSU, and the Douglas County School District. And folks, we're not just sending students there, giving them students. It's a partnership. It is a partnership. And we're not just renting space. We're sharing faculty and staff, and our students will be able to leave high school with an associate's degree. How about that? Last year, yes, round of applause, yes. Last year, our students saved taxpayers over $2.3 million in college tuition, $2.3 million. And Danny and his folks promised we're going to do a little better than that this year, right, Danny? No pressure, no pressure. Okay, moving on. Here's some construction that's going on at the Collaboration Campus, right here in Castle Rock. Now, this is the big idea. These are some things that are coming out of Parker, and Dennis is leading the way with this. The things have not been totally solidified, but we're excited to see a Chamber of Commerce for the first time in the history of this country look at putting public education, a STEM school run by the Douglas County School District, in one campus. Inviting the community in, establishing a community room, Arapahoe Community College, CU Denver South, and the Economic Development Partnership in Denver, all coming together. And to the far left, we'll see a huge career academy in skills and trades. Dennis, not to put you on the spot, anything you want to add? Okay, we're going to make it happen, folks, because it does not matter where our kids live here in the district. Doesn't matter what type of school they attend. They deserve these type of opportunities, and our community members who support us day in and day out deserve these opportunities. And that's it. Thank you. Yeah. Andy, I don't know if anyone has any questions, or Melody, any questions. I can answer a couple questions. If not, we can send everybody home, because I don't want to stand in between you and your safe drive home.
Thank you, Dr. Tucker. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming tonight and for closing this out. If you have questions, you can catch him. I'm sure he's not going to run out the door before you do. Thank you all for coming tonight. This concludes our forum. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being here, but also just the focus that this community puts on the health and welfare of our kids. Means a great deal to me as a parent, and it means a great deal to me as a volunteer in the community. Your work here, your work with your kids, your work with the schools, it matters. And what you do here every day, it matters. So thank you. Thank you to everybody on the DAC for your support. Round of applause. Thank you especially to Laura Welch, who chaired the forum. Thank you so much for your hours and hours and hours of work on this. Please, it would be great if you could help us put the chairs away and have a safe drive home.